Okay, if you rise, Commissioner Christian's going to lead us in the invocation and the pledge.
Can we bow our heads, please? Heavenly Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for all that you've done for us. Thank you for the great city that we live in, that we work in. Thank you for our mayor, our city council. Thank you for the wisdom that you've granted each of us to make decisions that will improve our city. We thank you for our city staff that work diligently to improve and make our city better. For all the residents that call Leesburg home. Today, God, we ask and we pray that you will allow us to make decisions that would propel Leesburg to the greatest city that possibly can be. Touch each resident, God, those who are struggling through this holiday season. We pray that they understand it's about love and giving, and will be no undue pressure on any family, no stress. We pray for our troops around the world that are fighting for the freedoms we all enjoy. Pray for our first responders who go in the battle, who go and fight things, God, that keep us all safe. Protect all of them. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. How you doing, man? Bob over there always.
Okay, we have certification results. We can do something for that.
I just read them.
Okay, certification results of the November 6, 2018 election.
Certificate of the County Canvassing Board for Lake County, excuse me, for Leesburg Commission Seat 5 at large. The whole number of votes cast was 7,325, of which Don Luckage received 2,957 votes. Dan Roebuck III received 4,368 votes.
Okay, on to our consent agenda. Routine items are placed on the consent agenda to expedite the meeting. If commissioner or staff wish to discuss any item, the procedure is as follows. 1, pull the item from the consent agenda. 2, vote on remaining items with 1 roll call vote. 3, discuss each pulled item and vote by roll call. Do we have any items that need to be pulled?
B23, please.
B. Which ones? 2 and 3?
No. Wait a second.
B3.
B3.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I was looking at the page 2 when I said that.
Right. Okay, so B3. Any other items?
B3 is what now? Columbus Building?
Okay, can we get a motion to approve the remaining items?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion from the public? Roll call.
Commissioner Bone?
Yes.
Commissioner Christian?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison?
Yes.
Mayor Roebuck?
Yes. Someone could introduce 4B2.
I introduce and recommend be read by title only, Mr. Mayor. B3.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a land purchase agreement for 2116 Griffin Road, Leesburg, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
Reason I asked this to be brought forward, I think with the short time frame we're looking at between contract, all the inspections that need to be done on this building, and the holiday thrown there in between, I would like to see this tabled until after the first of the year, when we can make sure what condition is inside and how much money we've going to have to put into this. I think it's an excellent idea. However, this is really a short time frame.
Well, go ahead, Bob.
Well, I just add to, I think I would want to look at this outside of just this particular building and what the intent is here. I think this touches on other things that we've talked about in the city, and maybe even some things we haven't talked about, but particularly the teen center, maybe the wellness center, as well, the master plan for Susan Street that's being talked about and developed, and there's probably some other things I'm not thinking of right away, but I think that there are other projects and things that are going on that before I would say let's go commit money to this, that we consider what we're doing with these other projects and whether this money can be used to help facilitate those projects, whether even the proposed uses for the facility, whether those can be done in any of these other facilities that are buildings that we may be doing as well. So, and then just looking at this, I question, why can't at this point some of these things be done in the resource center themselves? So not that I'm saying no, no, we shouldn't do it. I just think that it's probably too quick without considering what we're doing with these other projects there.
Well, one of the things that I want to do, after we had our last commission meeting, there was much said in regards to the Boys and Girls Club, their direction, and I got with Lena Williams and some of the board members. They have expressed, and just to be blunt, we all know that they went through a pretty trying period, and they've just had to fix a lot of things internally, things that we've talked about, and setbacks that they've had. Having done that, speaking with the board from the Orlando board and from the current board here that represents Lake County as a whole, they definitely understand where we're coming from, even to the point that they was not even going to ask anything as far as money from us this year, because they know that a year ago they had planned to have benchmark success and movement forward. What their proposal is, and again, I don't want to get into the he said, she said, because their approach is that they had found this building several months and got in touch with the city and was looking at the possibility of buying this building and using that because they could increase it. They right now have a waiting list of about 250 kids to get inside the building.
This building here?
No, in the club, the Leesburg club.
No,
but they were looking at
this
yes.
building. Okay, yeah.
And then we got it. So, anyways, the short of it is that they are very willing to do a partnership with us in the sense that if we buy the building, let them lease it for 3 years, they would pay for all the renovations and anything that needs to be done. That would be their contribution. And then they would lease it for 3 years, at which time it would give us an example of how they would run programs for us if in the next 3 years, for say, we went forward and was able to build the teen center. That would let us know whether we wanted to partner with them in operating the teen center with all the programs. Some of the things that they brought up that we have not discussed, and when I started talking about some of the different programs we had, they said that there are numerous grants that they are able to qualify for and to get to do a lot of the programs that we've talked about we'd like to have here. The problem is, because of the location they're in right now and the few amount of kids that they're able to have, they don't qualify for those grants. So for them, putting a couple $100,000 in remodeling and doing things like that to fix the building up, partnering with us, they could bring in grants, which would bring additional monies, which would be monies we don't have to come out of pocket for. And then that would let them have 3 years contract with us to see, okay, are we holding to our word? Are we doing and developing? And so I felt really good because this is the first time they've offered to come off the money, if you will, and they're willing to bring in more money, and the board's willing. So for me, we had talked about partnering with them because we know that they have a partnership with other cities, and I've always been upset that we don't have that partnership here. Now they're saying, okay, if we had the facilities where we could have the kids that we need to have the number, then that would put us in great position for when we get to the point where now you have a teen center that would host 250, and we would have a track record of what we're going to do and the partnership, and you could decide then if you wanted to go forward with us or if you weren't satisfied, what their options were. Now, I will say this. For me, when I've talked to Al, we obviously know and are hoping that Venetian Gardens is going to become the destination that we hope it will. if the restaurant and the activities there take off, I do think, like Commissioner Bone was talking about, you know, I do think that there's going to be another demand for further expansion on Venetian Gardens. And there's only really two things there or three things at the most that you could ever look at. One would be the boat club, one would be Pat Thomas Field, and one would be the wellness center. And I don't think the boat club and the Thomas Field or anything we've ever been interested in doing away with. So the only remedy to that would, if we wanted another restaurant or something down there, would probably be where the wellness center is. So if we were going to invest in this building to look at, like Commissioner Bone said, some other opportunities down the road, 3 years down the road, if we did this deal and we put the Boys and Girls Club in there, they did their programs. In 3 years, when we're ready to go to another phase and we needed a place for the wellness center and a place for expansion, because that would be ideal, something like that, one of those options. If it's just, hey, let's buy this building, make it a teen center, and then turn around in a year from now start coming up with money to build another teen center, I'm out on that. I think that there's a lot of opportunity here, but I would definitely want some direction on where we're going before I'm willing to step up and cast a vote on that myself.
Well, the idea of the Boys and Girls Club, as you know, I've had a problem with that for a long time. But if they are willing to step up, I wouldn't run it out 3 years, however, because we don't know what's going to happen with the teen center, which is coming up after the first of the year. And give them an opportunity. If they do a good job, then maybe they will be involved in the teen center. Now, I see there's a letter here from Z. Carter. I spoke with her at the meeting in Carver Heights a couple weeks ago, and I understand what she wants to do, and I think for right now, we could probably do that at the Resource Center, and I would be fully supportive of her doing that. But again, regardless of who's going to get the building, I don't see going through with this until the beginning of the year. It's just too short a time frame to try to get everything inspected. And I don't want us to jump on something when the inspections and everything else haven't been done yet. I want to make sure what we're getting as far as additional funds that are going to be needed, whether it's us or whether it's the Boys and Girls Club. So I just would like to wait on the vote on this.
Well, let me just add a little bit, because this is something that I brought to the commission, asked Al to put on the agenda, and not because John Chris wanted to do it, because going to here in the city council saying doing more for our youth other than active recreation, going to neighborhood meetings in Carver Heights in the 20-year plan. It's kind of amazing to me that we talk about adding programs to the community. Unfortunately, the Boys and Girls Club hadn't been to any Carver Heights meeting, hadn't been in the 20-year vision program. So it's kind of alarming to me, and that's been my biggest issue is, you know, we have organizations that want to come into the community but not are involved in the community. They don't know what the community needs are, what the wants are, and they come and tell us this is what you guys need. I would like to see them at a community meeting. Not just talking to commissioners or city manager, but talking to the people that they're gonna want to serve. This building's been for sale, the sign's been up, so if they saw the building, I mean, just talk to Mr. Bowersox, get a contract. I mean, it's not that difficult. I'm not in favor of buying a building for the Boys and Girls Club. I'm not in favor of saying we're gonna get them on the teen center, because this is something we've been talking about for a very long time, so that doesn't have my support or my vote at all. I think what we're talking about doing here is doing programs that the city of Leesburg does not have actively involved now as a city. If it was just easy as getting a bigger building, get some more grants, I mean, just go rent a building. I mean, if it's that simple, and we all know that's not to be the case because it's been in that building for a very long time. So I'm not a proponent of let's buy this for anybody, except the city buys this building and then allow the community to activate. Now, that's not what we want to do. That's fine, but I say it's still for sale. It's an open market. Anybody can buy it. My church can buy it, Roadmap can buy it, whoever. It's up for sale, so we don't want to do it. I say as Commissioner Dennis said, let's table it, let it go on the market. Someone wants to buy it, let them go buy it. And I think that's just come conversation from neighborhood meetings, what the neighborhood is saying they want to see more different types of activities for the kids in the community. That's why the whole proposal came up. is to make that happen. So that's why we're here tonight. So if we're not ready for it, I mean, we're talking about a teen center coming down the road, but we still miss the middle schoolers and the elementary school kids. We still miss them. So that was the point of this born, not to be another teen center, but to be a place for those kids can do different performing arts activities. So that's kind of why the whole proposal came to the city manager. Now, if we're not ready, then we're not ready. Let's kick it back. But I don't think we buy it and just say, here's the key. Even talked to our election director at the community meeting, his thing was when hurricanes come, they need a place to house their staff, to feed them and whatever. And we thought perfect opportunity because, of course, the community is going to be in their houses. So electric department, here's a building for you to use during hurricane times of that nature. So, I mean, that was the whole proposal being brought to the city council, is because what we've been hearing from the community, there are a lot of people who want to do things at the resource center. We talked about Z being in the kitchen initially. That was kind of kicked out. We didn't want, people in the kitchen, so we went to Lake Tech. We talked about, I don't think we can do quote unquote dance, those type of dramatic type of activities in the resource center. But I think if that's open, I'm sure those people would love to have the opportunity.
I don't remember that discussion, but I don't have a problem dancing at the resource center.
Yeah.
So.
But I'm just saying, I mean, that's where this all came from, is community, commission discussion, community discussion. In fact, at the 20-year plan, they were actually saying almost the same thing we were saying at the commission level about doing more things for the children of that neighborhood. We talk about, our school system. We ready to throw money to the school board. Here's an opportunity for us to control our own destiny, as opposed to saying, here's somebody else, tell us what we need. So I think if groups are going to come into the community, they need to be involved in the community. They need to be there in the community, listening to what the parents are needing, what the children need, and not just sitting up here. So let me call my commission, let me call the city manager, buy us that building. You don't even talk to the community. I mean, at 40 kids for 6 years, I mean, we have 40 kids in the drum line, and that's a volunteer program on Wednesday and Saturday. So that's unheard of. If I had 250 people on my waiting list, that means that's a big demand. And from a business standpoint, I want those 250 kids in my program, and I have to find a way to do it. And I don't think this, even 4,000 square feet, I told Al, this building's still not big enough for 250 kids. So,
and that's part of my point, though, to Commissioner Christie, because I think this is worthy of discussion. I just think, I'd like to see Susan Street substantially expanded, and we had a meeting, we talked about that a lot, and I think there's a master concept plan that's
the proposal for the master concept plan is on the way. I hope to have it to you here soon.
And then what we were envisioning was some connection between the recreation center all the way potentially over to 27 out there behind Ben and Walling's property there, to come through with a swimming pool,
right.
and other facilities, the teen center in there somehow, and so just looking at what we just did with the community center at Venetian Gardens, and we cut how many hundreds of thousands out of the budget, out of the what that was, because we couldn't afford to do that particular thing, a couple $100,000 or so.
You're talking about the change in the design.
Yeah, the change that we just did in the design.
Call it about $500,000.
Yeah, we just cut out $500,000 there. So I hope that the city pursues this Susan Street master concept plan and really makes that a significant feature of Leesburg. But that if we do that this a little bit of money here could potentially help facilitate where we would be cutting something in that project, and maybe the same things that are being proposed here can be done within what we're gonna be doing there as well. And I don't have enough information tonight to sit here and say, yeah, let's go do this, because my eye would be more focused on that master concept plan with Susan's.
And that's what excited me, because this is so close to the Susan Street concept, and for what you're getting for $250,000, even the appraisal comes out at $262,000. Probably the first time I've seen the city buy a building less than the appraised value since I've been on the commission. But you got a full commercial kitchen. We just spent $500,000 for the resource kitchen. Here you're getting a full commercial kitchen, pretty much the same things in the resource center, for $250,000, which is walking distance. I mean, if you sit there on Griffin Road, and I'm watching kindergartners walk from Beverly Shores past this building. So it's not about accessibility, it's not about transportation. You have a built-in market right here, and even if you go to the teen center, that's for teenagers. I wouldn't want my 9-year-old child hanging around the teen center, so I think that separates this facility from the teen center. And if we do need to go into a wellness center, the facility is still there. But I think you're going to need that facility more, even with the Susan Street concept, which we just said let's do a plan, which is going to take us another year. So how many kids did we just lose getting a master plan for $60,000? We talking about 60. I mean, we could all say swimming pool goes here, teen center goes here. Let's get it done. We just spent $60,000. Somebody come and tell us what we already know, but. That's neither here or there, but
Well, I mean, I could go. There's another building for sale on Griffin that has been sitting for sale for a number of years now. That office space. We could go buy that building and do some education for youth in there as well. I mean, we could start going and picking this piece and picking that piece and accomplish a lot of things there for the community. And get good bargains on things. I mean, there's that building. I mean, Grizzard's office has had it for sale for. It used to be an insurance agency, and it's been for sale there for years now behind CVS. But I just would like to see us first, before we go do something like this, that we just consider the bigger project and what we're going to do, and if we can incorporate that into doing it. And I also see it on the contract. It says that they're going to take the freezers and movable furniture, equipment not attached to the structure. All other fixtures, equipment that are, attached to or incorporated into the structure shall be the property of the buyer. So I don't know what that would mean as far as the kitchen, what the equipment is in there for the kitchen.
They just bought 2 brand new freezers, stand-up freezers, because other freezers were down. So I'm sure they're talking about those 2, but I'm sure.
I mean, are they taking all the other equipment, other kitchen equipment out of there too, or?
Yeah, they want to keep equipment.
They're going to take all the equipment,
tables.
so it won't be a commercial kitchen anymore. It's just going to be 4 walls. So
Let me just interject here real fast before we get too far along. There's one thing I want to make sure I'm very clear, because I kind of take offense to something you said, Commissioner Christian.
Okay.
We're not buying a building and then just giving it to somebody. For the 6 years I've been here, we have been harping, and you have been one of the biggest components of the focus on our children since I've been on this board. You have been an advocate for children. You guys have talked about giving the school board $500,000 a year.
You never heard me say that.
I said you guys on the house.
Okay.
Meaning us on the commission.
I was about to say.
Somebody. And it was Commissioner Dennison or
No.
and I never said that either. So I've said what I said is we need to dedicate and I didn't say give it to the school board.
Let him say.
Board of Education rates right down there with
Let me retract that statement and say, while in dreaming one night, I thought I heard. But my point is that I don't want to negate the value of the Boys and Girls Club, and I don't think we're giving them a fair shake on one aspect, and that is that club has been here since the 80s. The community built that facility for them, and they have a proven track record in Carver Heights, as you're saying, and they've had their thumb in that neighborhood since the 80s. So it's not like they don't have a clue what the neighborhood needs without going to a neighborhood meeting, number one. Number two, every time we've been frustrated when they were having the Freddie Williams issues and they were being turned upside down because of his actions as a director for them, or CEO, whatever it was, I served on that board for almost 10 years. I know what they've done. I think the mayor even served on that board maybe at one time. I'm not sure, but I know we have been involved. So they're involved. I didn't know a lot of stuff. That's why I said I have been upset and put out with their performance and what I felt was a lack of effort in our community. And they showed me text messages where they have reached out to this commission and they have reached out to our staff and have had no responses given back to them. They have been diligently trying to figure out how to get on page, none of that which I was aware of. And so they do have a great program that's already in place that touches the homes of the kids in our city. They already got programs, they already got funding. My issue is we're not giving it. If they're saying you buy the building, we'll rent it from you. Give us a contract for 3 years, and we'll invest all the money to do the renovations. You're not giving anybody anything. If we buy it, we're going to have to spend the money to do the renovations if we want to do something different with it. Number two, they have access for funding and programs that we don't have that are already proven nationwide, not just here in Leesburg. They have completely changed all their staff in Leesburg now. Over last year when they were here, So they have really spent a year of doing due diligence to get everything in place, and then have been reaching out to us as a commission and staff with not getting a response on that. So all I'm saying is I have been put out with them. I disagree with a lot of things that's happened in the past. But that being said, if they're willing to put money now, like I said, for the first time, they're in a position now, they say, to be able to put money out there to bring the programs, and it's a trial period. My biggest issue is I love the arts. I brought that up to them. They said there is a specific grant just for the arts for kids that they could get. But if we need all the discussions we've had on this commission about tutoring and mentoring and every other aspect, and then we want to make dance what it's about, which I understand the arts, but on a level of what the club can do overall opposed to what a dance center is going to do, I really think there's a large portion that's being skipped. My next question is how many buildings do we build, man? I mean, we built a resource center, and now we're going to build a teen center, and then we're going to build another center for middle school. I mean, I don't know how many buildings, and then the city's going to staff them and run the programs. I mean, where does it stop? Because at some point, that's where the community's supposed to come in, and when you say community, churches, nonprofit organizations, I mean, that's not the role of the city, as I see it.
But that's what that proposal calls for, the CDC to manage the building in West Leesburg, not the city to hire anybody.
Okay.
So, and again, nothing against any
But
program.
let me ask you this, does the CDC, and I'm not asking this in a goofy way, I'm asking it in a very unknowing knowledge way. But does the CDC have any programs anywhere, any other CDCs or whatever, where they're involved and they have charted, proven programs where they do all of these types of things? Or is this something they just say, here's a need and we want to help, so we'll try to figure it out?
Well, I think the biggest difference from what the CDC has already done, and Wiley, he's here as the president of West Leesburg CDC, is they have connectivity and they have a pulse to the community. And I think when we talk about program, there's no program bad or good. The issue is, if you're going to come into the community, you should be involved in the community. Not just say, I got to build and bring your kids here. It should be, what is community? Does community want dance? Does community want art? What does community want? I think the CDC's been working that community since 1997, some way before that. And a board member should be from that community. That Boys and Girls Club should be in that community. They should be to the community meeting. You should be a part of the 20-year plan. Not to say, oh, here you guys go, you found a building and we wanted it, you buy it for us, give us 3 years, and we're going to come in and do the program. I think that shouldn't happen.
So you keep saying that, John. Why do you keep doing that? Buy a building, give it to us.
No, I said buy a building, let us lease it, whatever the terms were, at least for 3 years. My thing is, if the building's for sale, you want to buy it, just let them go buy it. I think this proposal comes off the table and let the free market do what the free market does.
Yeah.
So I think just it's clear that there's not a majority to execute the contract as is, and then some different opinions probably on how to move forward there. But if we're not going to execute it, then I would suggest that we maybe take a motion to table it and have staff come back. It sounds, I mean, I'm not opposed to staff hearing from the Boys and Girls Club. I think if we're going to have a discussion about the pros and cons of what they can and can't do in the community, they need to be a part of that discussion and not just us, which I think they would be more than willing to. I think if there's a proposal, I know we have this, but if there's a formal proposal from, the CDC on running it, I think that would be something that we would want to look at. I think that it's clear that we don't want to do something tonight, and we need to do more research on this whole thing.
Mayor, if I can just add to, because I a little different approach to this, and I have been the one that, and I did throw out a $500,000 number, but not to just give to the school board, and I just randomly picked a number because I do feel that throughout our country we have a challenge with youth, and Leesburg we have a challenge as well that's similar to anywhere else that is happening. I think we're in a unique position in Leesburg to be able to address that in a way that other communities aren't, and that we could step up and do that. I would like to see our commission take a step forward, and this could be a piece of the puzzle, but I'd like our commission to step forward, recognize that we have challenges with our youth, and that we will make a financial investment in that. Not what it is yet, not what the answer is, but we'll make that financial investment, a significant one. and that the right programs, facilities, and everything be found and developed with a long-term commitment from the city to address those needs, with the goal that we're going to motivate children, help them to become more accountable, more involved in school, attend school, participate. I think the arts is a significant way to help them to do that, and we do that. And I would start at saying, picking out that dollar number, and if it's $500,000 a year for the next 10 years, that you're going to make this commitment to do it, that we make this isn't something you're going to fix in a year or 2 years, and you make a long-term commitment. And so you say, okay, we're going to invest $5 million over the next 10 years in our. What's wrong with that? $5 million over 10 years for children. We just spent that on a community center and more.
We did.
Okay,
We
so why can't we
absolutely
spend
did.
$5 million on 10 years worth of kids going through Leesburg? I think that's the most. The best that we could do with any amount of money that we've spent in Leesburg the 4 years that I've been on the city commission would be to put it into our children. So, but we pick out a number and we spread it in over a 5-year period of time, and we said it's going to be $500,000 a year, whatever it is, for that 10-year period. And then then as we go through our budget every year, we find the way that we're going to have that $500,000 to be able to do it. And I think when we step forward and we're willing to make that commitment, whether it's city run or whether it's Boys and Girls Club or there's some other party or it's Bill Gates or whoever it is, that when we show a commitment from the city that we're going to step up and spend $5 million over the next 10 years to help our youth, that we can get partners to do this and come up with the right programs to do it. So I'd like to see us start there and then come in and fill in the pieces to do it. But that would be my number one priority, would be to put the money for the kids and to help them. And I think we'll see a significant change in our community if we can improve the chances of our youth succeeding in life on any level.
And I agree. Let me just say to Commissioner Bone, and I have this conversation with some people working at our recreation staff I've been friends with a long time. I think Leesburg does more for children than any city in Lake County. That's bar none through it. Whether it be the city, whether it be our nonprofits, I think we do more for children than any other city. That being said, I do think we have a unique set of challenges because we don't have a lot of new development coming to our city, bringing new sets of people. We have people who have been here third and fourth generation in Leesburg. That was the whole point of this proposal. I think this facility, the costs associated with it, I think for me was a no-brainer when we discussed whether we're going to expose the community center for view. We did cut costs out. We also added costs back to it at a tune, I think, $400,000 or $500,000 we added back to the community building when we cut. So when we saw $500,000, I think initially was $700,000. So I said, hey, that's $200,000 we got that we can pull and make it pretty. So for me, for $250,000 for a facility in the middle of what we talk about Susan Street, I thought it was a perfect opportunity for the city to jump on it right on Griffin Road. Kids can walk to it, good visibility, and I think it goes into a community where we're trying to redevelop. We got community groups who are trying to redevelop, eliminate blight, and I thought this was a perfect opportunity. But I would be one to say let's vote no to this proposal, because $250,000, I think if we're going to go another direction, that money should be put towards the teen center, and it should be put on go. It should be expedited as fast as possible. So we're not going to do this for the city to bring a program. I think that this $250 should be earmarked to the teen center to get going. And that should be for building plans and site plan. And so when the money, we give it as the county for money next year, we have something tangible and real that we can show to our community. We're not just talking about it, but we're actually doing something.
Well, listen, I know the mayor, he's very pinpoint on this, and I think that there's a lot of opportunity here for us, and I think we need to probably move on. But I have to at least respond to something. First off, let me just say, in our opportunities that we're going to talk about, I think that it's good just to table it and not just say, do it or don't do it. If we don't like this program, fooey with it. That's not a very good attitude to have on it, because there is a lot of potential uses for this for the city, even if we didn't do this particular use on it. like we said, it could be a particular wellness. The electric department being next door, it might be something that they could use. Once we get Susan Street master plan, it may be something that fit into that. So I'm not saying that there's not a good reason to purchase it, but I think it's good to vet it out and to discuss it between us to see while it's there and while it is at a good market price, it may be good for us to have it just because of some other opportunities that could come along with it.
Yeah, I would just say that tabling it knows the same thing because the way the contract is. I mean, if we were to table it, it'd be expired by the time.
I may not get to talk about it again, so let's keep talking a little bit. So
Yeah, you might not.
After I finish my thought. And my other thing is let me ask you this. If your stance is that, let me ask you this. We really have a grave problem in Leesburg with all of our youth, right? And our kids.
I think so.
I mean nationwide. I mean, I'm not saying we have, but I'm saying there's a problem. There's a need. So is it better to have 2 programs out there running, 3 programs out there, 5 programs, or just this one program, and if we can't do that, nothing?
As many as you can get.
Okay, so my point is when I take the attitude of, well, if we're not going to do this particular program with it, then let's trash it and don't let anybody else think about it. I just think that looking at the opportunities, if the Boys and Girls Club go in there, the CDC goes in there, you know, whoever goes in there, BA 284, 26, whatever. I mean, whoever number wants to go in there. I just think that it's worth looking at. And I'll tell you this, I will never support, just so you guys will know while I'm on here, I'll never support giving money to the school board itself for anything for children. I mean, they're fixing to get a $4.6 million raise with the villages now on ad valorem taxes.
you looking at me? I said I wasn't. I didn't say give the school.
But I'm just
the money.
saying, but I do wholeheartedly
I don't think
agree.
anybody has said that.
But I do wholeheartedly agree with setting money aside to join with nonprofits and to put programs in place outside of the school board 100%. I have no problem in that because that's part of community. That's what community is. Now, I wish if you guys would talk about this. I'm gonna tell you, I wholeheartedly believe this. You can have all the programs in the world that you want. You can have, there can be a building for every kid to go to every day. But the problem starts at home. And nobody ever wants to say that out loud, but the problem starts at home. And I think we need to start finding programs to address home, to address helping parents, teaching parents, educating parents. I mean, we have a lot of parents who became a mom at 15 or 16. Where did they get a lot of life experience on how to manage a home as a single parent or to a struggling parent doing 2 jobs and raising kids at 18 years old? So I don't think that everything we do should be focused on the kid if the problem also is a huge factor is in the home. If you have a home where a parent is working 2 jobs and kids come home from school and there's nobody there, that's a problem. I don't care what neighborhood you put it with or what group of people. There has to be other things. So I hope that we can, in our programs, look at stuff and how to help the home as well as the kid.
But Commissioner, I mean, all due respect, that's the whole premise. We have a resource center that's dealing with parents.
Right.
And if the nonprofit does not communicate or work with the resource center, then we got a dead point. That's the whole point of a managing like a CDC or a Boys and Girls Club, but they have to work together. You got a resource center that if your program has not even been in the resource center, has not talked to Kids Central, doesn't know that there are programs that are already there touching parents, these are going to overlap. The same parents and the same, but if we're not talking together, and that's what the city has to facilitate that. You just can't say, oh, go over and do your thing because I like your program. You have to tell them you have to work with the resource center because they're working with parents. That's why we built it. The resource center is there to provide resources to those parents, provide job opportunities, provide computer services, to provide family support. So if I got the mom and the dad working and got the kids over here doing something totally not communicating, we still missed the point. So that's the city. That's what I'm saying. The city is working on building a comprehensive program for the whole family. But if we're not going to force nonprofits to work together, then we're wasting our time. We're throwing money out.
But I'll take this one thing. You pointed at Wiley Hamilton. You said Wiley Hamilton's the president.
The presidency.
Has he been to all the community meetings over the last 20 years?
He probably ain't been in Leesburg in 20 years. I don't know how long he's been in Leesburg.
You don't have a board member on the CDC or any other group that's been to any of these meetings for 20 years, even though we've been having them for 20 years. The Boys and Girls Club has been involved in the community Okay, congratulations. So the Boys and Girls Club has been involved in the community since the 80s. While a board member that's on it for the last 2 years may not have served on it, or while a board member on the CDC may not have served on it, who just joined it a year ago, that doesn't denote the organization. That's all I'm saying.
I grew up in the Boys Club in 1978. I was Boys and Youth of the Year in 1985. I worked at the Boys and Girls Club. I went from Boys Club to Boys and Girls Club. I've been, nobody has to tell me about the Boys and Girls Club, the other nonprofit. We're not, to me, this proposal was simply about a building, not about a nonprofit. And I think that's where I think we missed it, because we're here talking about a facility that's going to enhance our city.
Okay, let's buy it. Don't put it on profit then. I'll vote on it right now. That's not what the point is. So I make a motion to table this till after the first year, after everything's been vetted if necessary? Or do you want to let the contract expire and redo it again?
Well, there's a motion on the floor, which is to approve it as is. So I would think you
A
need
motion to table can be raised at any time
Is it? Can
and
they
supersedes
table it?
pending motion.
Before you go to table the motion, I know Commissioner Brown, I think you had a couple things to say.
Just another.
I had something I wanted to add to the
Oh,
conversation
go
as
ahead.
well.
Go ahead.
I think this is a difficult conversation. This is one of the times where my job is hard, because you guys have varying opinions and we try to keep it in the middle. So I'd like to throw this out at the commission for your consideration before you make another motion. When Commissioner Christian talked to me about this, I actually at first encouraged him not to bring this before the board because we weren't ready. And after our conversations, I told him I would support it. And even though we didn't have those direct conversations, I ultimately think that this is probably one of those purchases that you can do, and in the long term, it will make sense. I don't think it's for the immediate reasons that Commissioner Christian wanted it, but I think in the long term, we have some short-term goals that we can make use out of this building. And then in the next 3 to 5 years, I feel so confident that the Basin project is going to be successful, that we will be needing a place, hopefully, for the healthcare clinic. And so therefore, based on the price, because there's some efficiencies in the long run, I was with Commissioner Christian and told him I'd even recommend it. And so those were the reasons I put it on the agenda. Now on the other side of the equation, give me 2 more minutes. On the other side of the equation, I think the city's at a precipice. And I don't know, I think most of the commission feels like we've had an organized plan for the last 5 years. I think we certainly have, and we followed it. And we've been through some different variations, but that's what a plan is. The number one point of a plan is when you make a plan, it doesn't go according to plan. And when we put together the Venetian Garden Plan, I don't think when we put all those things down that I thought we would accomplish it in 5 years, which we did. But now we've had some new successes. We've had the Villages Partnership that's blossomed. We've had the fiber deal that brought us cash. I think we've planned, and I think we're at a turning point where the commission's going to change a little bit with Commissioner Bone leaving. I think the Susan Street project is one that the city needs to look at extremely hard. And I don't think that we can put that one together haphazardly. So I think we need to spend some money to plan that correctly. That plan has 3 or 4 big parts in of itself. It has the teen center concept. It has the pool concept. It has an entryway concept. Where do we bring folks in? We've got Mr. Bennett Walling, who wants to donate or not donate property and wants to put a road back to his property using our city access road. But then that fits in. That fits into this project. And then it also has the Beecher Street portion of the concept, where we would look to use eminent domain to condemn housing that is substandard, that is public safety issues, and then that has multiple layers of how we figure that out. But if you put the Susan Street concept together, I'll throw out a big number, I think you're probably looking at a long-term master plan project where the city could spend $10 million between pool, between buying property, between teen center, between entryways. I think that number's actually even manageable and still do other projects. But before we jump into that, we do need to plan it. So the problem with this facility becomes, this facility being the Griffin Street facility becomes, it is too early. We're not quite ready to do it. I looked at this property on behalf of the city, I guess it was it 2 years ago with the appraisal, when I think we were the ones who caused the appraisal because we were thinking use it for the wellness center. And then when we were kind of still arguing about the little pieces of the Venetian garden plan, I scuttled the ship, didn't even bring it to your attention because I thought it was a bridge too far. I think it still is a bridge too far. I think the consensus that I hear on the commission here is that a teen center, Susan Street, and investing in our youth is a priority. And if I was listening closely, I thought I heard Commissioner Christian throw out a compromise, which I would encourage the commission to consider before you make another motion. And that compromise was not to do the purchase, but take that $250,000 and put it in a reserve account to have it ready for planning for the teen center. I would encourage you to look at that, because I think what that does is it gives assurance to the community that the city's serious about the teen center concept. Commissioner,
Yes,
you even
absolutely.
talked about that. I think it shows that we are moving forward, but this particular piece is just not right now. But I think the next best compromise is to say we're serious about doing something. So I would encourage, after listening to your debate, would encourage you to consider that compromise.
So just a couple other things, and again, just having the contract and thinking about other things that have been on my mind. Have we talked to the Center for the Arts, for example, and I know you've got this program here, but I know that Marie there at Maria at the Center for Arts does a lot with the
She's already
community.
at the Resource Center. We talked to her. In the Resource Center, they're meeting, I think, once a month with partners. And that was, and Maria, she was there. We talked to her. Even the lady who does Kid Central, she actually does a little dance as well. And we found out at that meeting we had two nonprofits doing exactly the same thing: Lake Community Action Agency and Kid Central doing the same type of family parenting. And that's what we're saying. Until we start communicating, we're gonna have duplication of services
Right.
when it's not really needed.
And
but Maria did it. She's already coming over, I think, twice a month now doing
Right.
programs in the community.
The reason, and I don't know how, again, it fits with this building, because but just here recently, I've been to two children museums, or museums that had children sections to them, and I thought they were very effective, and the kids that were working with them. One of them is just right up here in Ocala, that I'd never been to that Appleton Museum, and they have the little interactive children's section in there. So I was thinking about Maria, and I don't know if this building somehow fits in there. She already uses the city building here in town, but if there's a more dedicated space for kids. The other thing that may seem way off top, not totally off topic because we're talking about food, is this kitchen thing. And as I talk to people in the community and just everywhere, and again, this isn't just a Leesburg thing, our food service level of dependability for people that work in the food industry, and their customer service skills are horrible. And it's just everywhere. And I can go to one, I've been to Winter Haven to go to Legoland, and I'll go to Burger King that's right here, and Chick-fil-A right here, and it's right next door to each other, and it's a total different level of customer service that you get in those two. I think that so I've thought about talking to the Chamber of Commerce, which I haven't, and the high school, but I think if we had training in customer service industry in Leesburg, that would make Leesburg set apart from other places around, that we can go to whatever fast food or sit-down restaurant that we have, and you can receive better service and have more dependable employees here in Leesburg. That could go a long way to help our community, make it a pleasant, more pleasant place that people would stop and eat because they're going to get served better here. And so again, I think about this building. Okay, and does it have? Am I hearing that it does not have a kitchen then, or it does? I mean, they're going to take everything out of it.
It does have a kitchen. What equipment and those type of things at the end of the day will be left with, I don't know.
So I could sit here and come up with things that you could use this use the building for if it was all hashed out a little bit more with the plan. And I don't know how the commission feels about this food service training, but I think that that would go a long way, personally for our community too. But it could fit. But those are just some more thoughts I've had. so I won't get to say it.
I don't
stand
think
there and
it's-
say it next month. So,
I don't think it's super pressing. I mean, sure, someone could come buy it next week, but it's been on the market for a couple of years, I think.
Yeah,
If
and
something else comes up and we get another plan, then it doesn't say we can't change our minds.
And yeah, and just to bring to your attention too, if you ultimately table this, I'll need to get back with Mr. Bowersox and negotiate an extension. My guess is that the Knights of Columbus probably would extend. I don't know, maybe we need to throw some more earnest money in the deposit. But I wouldn't suggest that. I would suggest if we're going to buy it, we need to buy it this evening. If not, then we need to move on. But before you do that, I would encourage you to go back and look at that compromise. If you don't buy that this evening, I think you should encumber a couple of bucks for the teen center concept.
I like the compromise that Commissioner Christian I'm so used to calling you by your first name, Commissioner Christian came up with, but I do not believe that we should ask them to extend that building. We've got too many, just the question of the kitchen. We have no idea what's going to be left there. We need things spelled out. We need a real contract. This is not a real contract. There's so many open-ended issues that whether we table it or whether we save the money and decide after the first of the year, we've got to have this information.
Okay, so right now we have a motion to, I guess, just approve or not the
I
contract.
made a motion to table it.
Oh, you made a motion to table it, but nobody seconded the motion.
Well, he interrupted. Anybody want a second, or you want to just go back to the vote?
I'll second it.
I'd like to hear the compromise on the floor.
Oh, I didn't.
Okay, so now we have a motion though to table it with a second. So discussion on the motion.
I'll
to
waive the
table.
compromise if you want before we go vote. I don't care. I mean, we got all night.
Procedurally, it's hard to mix those two concepts because you have to dispose of the contract, and the allocation of funds is a separate
I would think.
question.
Well, can they remove pull back the amendment to table it and add an amendment to the contract, or add an amendment? Well,
We
how
can
are you
just
gonna do
direct.
that?
We can just direct you separately to.
Yeah.
I think that it would just be a separate issues to allocate $250,000 outside of this contract.
Right.
You okay with that?
The way you got to get to that, though, is you got to kill the motion on the floor.
You got a what?
So we
You gotta
right now we have. I
vote
think we need
against
to
the
vote.
You need to vote no. And if you don't make if you retract your motion to table, then move to the vote on the floor, which is to buy the building, then you should vote no, and then somebody would need to follow that up with a motion to allocate $250,000
Right.
for a teen center.
Okay.
It's just Robert Rules of Order
Yeah,
again.
but I'm not going for. I'm not putting the money for a teen center. We're going to work that out separately. I'm not going to vote.
Well, that would
for
be a separate vote.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, I'll withdraw the table motion.
Okay. So do we have any comments from the public on this? Now that you've heard us for about an hour, maybe you have some things you'd like to say. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. My name is Betty Stevens Coney, and as usual, I always enjoy the feedback and the conversation and the discussions from the commission. And as I sat there, I was very much cognizant of some of the things that I did not hear. And it's so very, very vitally important. Now, I've been in education all of my life, and I am presently a national educational consultant. So, as we participate in and move forward to being involved in the progressive move to make Leesburg all that it can become by enticing others to join in with us for a more productive place to live, the all-inclusion of a performing arts center to our offering is very appealing. Now, these are some of the whole community, whole student, whole education components. What are they? Today, we're involved in, and you've heard this saying a long time, the STEM program. STEM means, you know, science, technology, education, and math. Well, recently, we are involved with STEAM. STEAM, which stands for science, technology, engineering, and the arts, performing arts, as well as mathematics. Now, what is the importance of performing arts in education? What is the importance of performing arts in our community? What is it? Whole community. A community cannot be fully whole without taking into consideration the human emotional part of who we are. Are you with me? Now, in addition to that, here's where we are. Today in education, today in the community, today in the corporate world, there is something called 21st century education. And what is 21st century education? It involves the 3 C's. And within these 3 C's involve all-inclusively performing arts. Isn't that wonderful? And the 3 C's are critical thinking or critical reflection. They are communication, they are collaboration, and creativity. Now, in performing arts, our students are involved with all of this. When students are in school, they are involved in a multiplicity of subject offerings and things to try to make them whole. Well, if we're expecting our city to become all that it can be, we then, and as Pastor Christian said, Leesburg is one of those places where we find so many things being offered to our children. Well, in addition to those things, we must then think of the all-inclusivity of performing arts. Now, in the area of critical thinking, and this is how performing arts will affect us, our students. Students gain valuable life skills by learning the importance of feedback, both positive and constructive. The arts also provide a place for solitude where students can immerse themselves without interference from their outside world or from their environment. So what is this saying? When students are involved in playing an instrument, when students are involved in dance, when students are involved in music, when students are involved in theater, when all of these involve critical thinking and collaboration with each other. Performing arts is a discipline that encourages teamwork, whether that is in writing, creating, or doing the act of performing. Students have the opportunity to engage in creative collaboration, a skill that they have limited chance to develop outside of the rehearsal time. Creativity, cooperation today is looking for somebody who can think. And in the performing arts, this is one way that we have creativity and communication. No one wants to hire anyone who does not know how to communicate with those people around them, nor the public. So performing arts creates all of this. The performing arts has arguably championed these core 21st century skills more than any other curricular activities. I just wanted to add that bit of icing on the cake, because when we're thinking about performing arts, we're thinking about the total guts of an individual. So if Leesburg then, if we intend to be able to entice others to come here, then we certainly would be ahead of the game by offering performing arts. which entails so many wonderful character building traits. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. What else?
I'm Jacqueline Cunningham Perry, retiree from the city of Leesburg, and I'm coming to you today as a grandmother. As I hear all of the points you're talking about, I know how long it can take in government to get to a place. I'm the grandmother of a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old and a 5-year-old and 2 1-year-olds. I'll be very honest with you. My 17-year-old grandson is going to graduate, and my 14-year-old granddaughter is about to go into high school. There are skills she has to develop before she becomes the kind of young lady that's ready for high school. Yes, I'm going to teach her that at home. But please don't fool yourselves. I've been a single mother. You do the best you can. And when you don't have skills and abilities, you're blessed when your church or your surroundings help you become that person. You can't put it somewhere that's so far away that I can't attach to it and become a better parent. If the vicious cycle continues and nobody helps me break it, then we have the expectation that it'll always continue. We have to show people something different. I know $250,000 sounds like a lot, but I've worked in this city. It's a drip in the bucket compared to what the overall picture is. And I'm not trying to minimize it, but $250,000. And if it's going to help my granddaughter or my granddaughter's friends become better women, to know more about things that they would not know on a normal basis. I want them to be scientists. I want them to be mathematicians. I want them to know something different than I did, because I went to a segregated school. I need these girls to know that too. I need to know what it was like, because if you don't know your history, you're destined to repeat it. We can keep dragging it out and finding reasons not to. This master plan has been around forever. I was here 18 and a half years. The community building just got torn down. They were talking about tearing it down when I started. I can't see us waiting that long. You're talking about who we're losing? We're losing children every day because we're hesitant to ask them what they want. We keep asking everybody else. I dare you to ask a teenager what they would like to know before they got into high school. Trust me, they will tell you. And I think that's what it is. We're minimizing what these children can tell us, when I think what we do is fear what they're going to say. Ask them. The adults keep making decisions. We keep prescribing before we diagnose. Anybody going into the middle schools and saying, what would you like to be? What would you like to do? And what do you think it's going to take to do it? When you open their eyes and their minds, you'll find out some things that I think will astonish you. So please don't put this off as if, okay, it can wait. Because the minute you keep putting it off, another young girl's going to get pregnant, another kid's going to go to jail, and you know what? You're going to pay out $250,000 easily. I've worked in the jail system. I'd rather put it into something positive, to that little girl that wants to dance versus that little girl that's going to be pregnant at 15. It happens. I went to school, and the youngest girl I remember having a baby was 12. I was in elementary school. That's ridiculous. The most ridiculous thing is still happening. So please, I know the pocketbook is important, but you need to think sometimes with your heart, especially about children, because they don't care how much money you make. They care how much time you invest. Thank you.
Mayor, can I ask a question? This Commissioner Kirsten, the things that we have in here, like from Heidi Yancey, where does she have a school right now? Where she
Yes,
does it?
Heidi and I sent out a video, but I couldn't get it to play. Heidi has 3 locations. She's in Bushnell, Plant City. She's based in Claremont. She actually was in Beverly Shores last year, and school Beverly Shores, and actually she was going to be there tonight, but her daughter's in a major production at the Holy Land with Ty Tribbett and Mary, so she couldn't make it back to Orlando in time. And that was one of the reasons Al did put it on the consent agenda, so thought we can get her up early so she can get back to Orlando. But and actually one of the kids there, Coco, she actually dances with Miss Heidi, so she's here to kind of talk more about Heidi.
Hi. I guess I'm a little bit of the simplest thing to be.
I'm sorry, could you just state your name for the record?
Sorry.
Thanks.
My name is Nicole Marks.
Thank you.
I was a teen parent. I had my daughter at 16. I'm a single parent now. I have a 13-year-old, and she's now 22. But I'm a college graduate, and I have my 13-year-old who is very talented. And what I face, and the friends that I have face, who are also single parents, we have talented kids in Leesburg that the challenge is, should I take them to Claremont? Should I take them to Orlando? Because there's nothing here for them to do. So when the big talk about money, we don't understand it on our level as just parents, but we're willing to take our kids somewhere else and spend the money. So if it's here, we can spend our money here in the city that we live in versus taking it to another city, or even in some cases another county, by going to Orlando, because everything is in Orlando, or most things are in Claremont. My son's a part of the drum line here, which he loves, and Chief David is phenomenal. But that's just one thing that he has that's here. But there's so many kids that are like him, talented, but there's nowhere for them to go in their own city. So that's a challenge. So for working parents, single or married or non-single, still a challenge. But the biggest thing is, like Ms. Perry said, if you ask the kids what they want, I'm an ex-employee of Boys and Girls Club and a club kid myself, no one asks the kids what they want. It's just adults. So if you take the time to ask them what they want, not necessarily in the sense of giving them what they want, but just get their input. They have a voice, so if we use their voice to see what it is, how we can make things better or compromise, you can get the sense of, oh, I didn't think of that. Not necessarily coming from a 13-year-old, but they have a lot of insight that you probably wouldn't see, but you could by simply just asking the question. And that's...
Ms. Sparks, may I ask you a question real quick?
Yes.
I think I'm a little confused on the reference you made. There's nothing here. There's three dance class studios here. One's right here on Main Street. Why would you drive to Claremont when we have three? I know they'll all be dancing Saturday in a parade. I'll be able to count them as they go by. So that's why I struggle with things like that.
For example, there's like, for my son, there's hip hop dance. They offer that, but there's other things that they don't offer. There's like ballet, but he doesn't want to do ballet. Or there's like kickboxing, not just dancing, performing different types of arts. Kickboxing, the drums is that's the one thing that we do have, but the facility, we raise money ourselves for the drum line, or our church helps us with the drum line. So that's nothing we're getting ready to try to go to Atlanta next summer for a drum camp, but that's the parents ourselves are trying to come up with that money, which is going to cost us like $10,000 to do that. But it's a lot of things that are offered, I should say, in other cities that are not offered here that kids like to do now.
Okay. So it's not necessarily that we don't have organizations, it's just that some of the programs they offer are not necessarily the programs you're looking for.
Yes.
Okay. Now I understand.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Consuelo Ibe, and I run Darling Diamonds Incorporated. We are a 501c3 organization that caters to young ladies from ages 8 to 18. We have basically what home ec is. If any of you remember doing things in school such as sewing and cooking and humanities and arts and all of these things that our children, basically schools have taken from our children, we offer that. And so we honestly just started the program this year, and we have about 45 girls already involved in the program. So the problem with our organization is we can't find space to really offer our children. We do go to the Resource Center once a month to do the program, but we need more time, we need more space. I believe that this center would be great for us because there are so many activities that our young ladies do want in this community. I, for one, before I started this organization, was driving my child outside of Leesburg. That shouldn't have happened if we had the programs here and established here in this area. I don't want to have to drive 50 miles, 45 miles away from my hometown just to do a program. It shouldn't happen. So I started the organization so our girls can have something to say. I'm not just sitting at home doing anything. I don't want our children to be bored. what causes them to do things outside of the home or get pregnant or all kinds of stuff is because they're bored. And honestly, technology is not the answer. You cannot keep giving our children iPhones and Xboxes. They have to learn how to do critical thinking. Our program provides that critical thinking skill. They learn how to hand sew first, and then they go on to sewing machines. Chef Z is an excellent chef. She's also helping me with this program for life skills and teaching them how to cook. There are so many avenues and so many things that we offer, but we need space. And if you guys take this away, where are we gonna go? So we need this building. I think the teen center is great, but there's an age gap for these kids, and that is between 8 to 13 years old. What do they do? We're looking at our children for teens, but what about our elementary and our middle school? We need this building. Please, don't take it away from us at this moment.
My name is Jacoria Green, and I am 10 years old, and I am a resident of the Carver Heights community. I think it would be a very good idea to have a performing arts center located on Griffin Road because it will allow young girls the opportunity to have dance lessons at an affordable price. Dancing has always been my passion, and I always wanted to learn more, so that's why I think it would be a good idea to have a performing arts center.
And my name is Simone, and I'm her mom. And when you say that the reason why, even though we have other dance studios here, being a mother of 5, and I have 4 girls who love to dance, I would never, well, I won't say never, but I cannot afford those prices at all. Last year, or when Miss Heidi was at Beverly Shores, she worked a deal with all 4 girls, and it was affordable to me monthly, and we did it. But she had to leave because she didn't have no spot to do her dance lessons. But that's why. And also, in our community, if anybody sit there and watch the kids come from Carver Heights, the school from Beach Carver Middle, and just watch them, right there, as soon as they release out of school, it's like a whole bunch of guys sitting there. Those young guys that pass by there, they're talking to them. It's no telling what they got going on. And I have a 17-year-old son, and he always, Mom, all I do is, you won't let me go nowhere, I can't. But I'm afraid, I don't want to lose him to the streets because they ready for him. And I refuse, to allow him to be out there. I pick up my kids from school even though we're a block away. So, having this center would be great for our community and our children. Thank you.
Mayor, I have a couple other thoughts on this. So, I hear Jackie's special passion to plea there for the kids, and I'm of that same mindset that the longer we wait, that's just another set of kids that you've lost, or you haven't given them the full opportunity for to make changes in their lives. So, but what's missing here for me is and I hear these programs and I'm supportive of all those things, but what I'm not hearing is what's this going to cost these kids? And I heard the young lady just said talk about this she can't afford to do at other places, and Simone saying that she can't afford the 4 kids, and so I don't know how all those pieces work. How much are
Lewis, can you come up and talk about your photography journalism and tell them how much you're going to charge the kids? I'll put you on the spot. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Commissioner Ball.
That's okay. But what my question is what is it going to cost? Because if my idea to concept of helping these kids is to give them an opportunity where every child who wants to participate in this is going to have an opportunity to do it. And they're not going to be turned down because they don't have enough money, even in this program, to do it. This kind of a facility would be for every child to be able to get in there and do it. And so if Miss Heidi is coming in and she's going to charge $40, but they can't pay $40, then that's not the kind of program that I'm looking for.
And Mr. Mayor, and let me just take it. I talked to Heidi. That was my question. How much are you going to charge the kids? And Simone, she said had 4 kids who were dancing with Heidi. And I did talk to Terry Hicks from Dance Down the Mix because I asked her opinion on this program, her expertise, because I didn't want to bring somebody in the community. We have people already doing it. Terry said she will provide guidance, but of course her business is her business, and she doesn't say I'm gonna give you $30 to come to a dance. You know, she has to pay for overhead, but she did say she would assist us in programming and some expertise. But she did ask could the city give a grant, and I told her no, the city couldn't give a grant. And we want parents as well to understand. And I hadn't talked to my CDC board on the east side of town, but I'm sure that they will have no problem assisting with scholarships for those kids. Now, I don't know how much Miss Connie charged for her 45 kids that come, but I could $5 a month. So $5 a month, and I think that's the beauty of a city-owned facility, because we're not telling programs pay rent to come here. And I think what the CDC is, with Miss Connie's already going to the Resource Center, and I asked Ken, you got all these groups who want to come to the Resource Center. You're not going to have time to really have 3 days a week for these programs. And I think what this facility would do. Lewis talked about, because he's a writer for Atlanta Times, talked about journalism and writing, and he'll say, and these programs came to me, well, our kids need to learn how to write. Our kids should do more than just play video games and photography, and the kids would need a camera. So to me, that was something that I hadn't heard people talk about in Leesburg, of photography, journalism. I mean, everybody has an iPhone, but I think when you have people who are coming, and Lewis is a retiree, so he probably doesn't need any money. I don't know what he's going to charge the kid.
I'm retired. I always need money.
I wasn't done, so I want to hear what his answer.
My name is Lewis Ward. As most of you know, I write for the Orlando Times. There is definitely, I see the need for the arts, and I'm one of those kids. I was born and raised in New York, in Harlem, that didn't have those resources. And so when I came here, I donated my resources to Carver Middle School, and anybody else that wanted to learn how to write journalism or do journalism, take photography. And I'm not interested in the money. I mean, I need money, but I'm not interested in the money. What I am interested is developing a good skill in our kids so they can get a job. Developing to let them know that they could be anything that they want to be if they work at it. And I think the arts, and I think photography especially, can help them do that. You can make money in photography. You can make, a lot of kids don't realize, you can make a lot of money writing. People who write get good money. They write blogs, they write jingles, they write, there's so many areas that they can, become proficient in. And I had proposed to Pastor Christian that I would do a journalistic writing and a photography class, and I don't need any money. I might need a little bit of equipment. I got some cameras that we can use and I'm willing to donate, but I'm not really worried about the money. What I really want to do is to help these kids get a skill so they can become self-sufficient. Help them realize that they can be anything that they want. Give them something that they want to do. But when you do stuff that you have to do, you're not going to have the impact when you do stuff that you like to do. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm here for is to teach these kids how to use a camera, how to shoot, how to take photographs, and most of all, I'm here to develop their writing skills. And you'd be surprised, these kids got a lot of stories. They got a lot of stories, and once you get them developed into how to, get that writing process and then get it down on paper, we propose to teach them the process of writing, the grammar, the punctuation, et cetera, and the journalism, shooting photography. But you know what? I don't need the money, because I get paid any other way. Do I need to say anything else?
They bought us something.
I just had a couple.
I wasn't ready for this. I'm getting ready to write the story here.
Make it right about yourself.
Go ahead.
I have another thought. What if we did did a contract and we did a due diligence period of, let's say, 4 months that would, or 4 months that would get you to, let's see, so December, January, February, March, the end of March, and you have to the end of March to exercise some due diligence. And if we decide to exercise the contract, then we close the contract by the end of April. And if you have May, June, July, August, September, that would give you like 5 months to end, by the time the school year started, to be able to get things in order at a facility, so you would have a facility operating by September. And in that due diligence period, here's the pieces that I think are missing. One big one is that we don't need to get in the business of competing with private business in Leesburg. Whether it's Dance Dynamics or another dance studio or an art studio, whatever it may be, we don't need to compete with them to take away customers and clients that those private businesses have. So I said that we don't want to turn away children, that they should all have an opportunity. What I'm speaking to is that the children who cannot afford those programs, not to take somebody away, but they can't afford. So for me, that would involve some sort of a need basis to be able to participate in something like in a program like this. And so that would be part of our due diligence. I think we have some things on our end of due diligence that we would need to do. What programs? How much is it going to cost? How are people going to qualify? Is there enough room to do that in the building? What space is going to have to be used? There's just a lot of questions. You just buy a building and we don't have a plan. There's a lot of pieces that have to go there. And within that due diligence time, we could also look at what needs to be done to the building, if it's even something we should buy. We might get in there and find out that without that piece of equipment, we don't want the building. And so to address Commissioner Dennison's questions that she has there. But but to not approve this contract, but to do one where we say we'll buy it if all the pieces fit together. We'll take 4 months to do our due diligence, or 5 months to put this together. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And if it does, we've got the ball rolling. We've been working on a plan for those few months. Because if we buy the building, we've got to come up with a plan anyway. So let's come up with a plan, have it under contract possibly, and if it all works out, then close on it. And Mike, Commissioner Pedersen can make that decision instead of me.
Just got one statement. The only thing that they need to be in my class is to have an interest. That's it.
Thank you. So I would certainly go along with that. I was actually going to suggest probably going a little bit further. And for me, I guess I'm not convinced we have a plan for the building yet. I am convinced that at some point in time we are going to need to move our health center. So if, worst case for me, if we buy this building and don't do anything with it for 3 years, we're not out really anything because we've got an alternative use for it. Where I guess I am on it, so I've been doing some research just because of the teen center stuff and how the economics of this whole thing work, because that's always been a concern of mine. And it doesn't all come back to the city, but it seems the studies are pretty consistent that if you can stop a kid from dropping out of high school, that just graduated from high school, not going any further, that's worth about $200,000 to $300,000 to society over a lifetime. So if we can stop one kid a year from dropping out, then I think that's good. And where I would be willing to go is I'd be willing to buy this building tonight, and then it's going to take us a couple months to figure out, do some cleanup and maybe renovations. I don't know where that goes. And then I'm not willing tonight to commit what I want to do with the building, but I want to see a full plan. And if all these things we're hearing, we can get those in a plan with, like you said, is it means tested? What are the rates? Where are these, just really defined out? Then I'd be willing to go forward for it. If the Boys and Girls Club wants to put a proposal, I'm honestly a little skeptical, but I think we should listen to anyone that wants to bring a proposal. I think you should give everyone an opportunity to throw that out there and have these discussions when about the merits of the proposals when we actually have a real proposal and the people are here to go with them. So that's where I am.
How old is this building?
Do you know how? Do you remember when it was built? It's in the appraisal report.
What condition is the roof in? What condition is the electricity in? What condition is the parking lot in? Do we have answers to any of this?
Yeah,
What condition is the kitchen in?
The appraisal speaks to some of that. It's in reasonable condition.
If we hold
It's-
this until after the first meeting in January, get this information, do whatever upfront inspection you want to do, even if it's a city conducting the inspection, bring it back to the commission so that we have some idea of how much money we're talking about. There are so many unanswered questions right now. Performing arts, I think it's the greatest thing going. Remember the fight I had with some of you guys over Melon Patch, giving them a yearly stipend? I am for this. A lot of kids are not ready to play football or baseball or anything else, but they can certainly get involved in the arts. As a matter of fact, last year we met with the new superintendent to try to get her to make Leesburg High School a performing arts high school. Now, we're still behind on that because there again, we've got to depend on the Board of Education. Something like this, I think it's the greatest thing that Leesburg could do right now. But answer the questions first.
1982.
1982. In the hot sun and the hurricanes and everything else, who's been inside the building?
I actually went in with Travis Rima, Wendell Perry from the Recreation Authority Board, and Marcus Knoblack. Met with Mr. Bauersock, some of the guys. I did ask him about the roof because I did see a spot, and he told me the roof was good. We walked around it, and it's a real open facility. You got an office. The kitchen is kind of opens up.
How was the plumbing in there?
Well, we didn't run the toilets or anything like that.
How was the electricity in there? This is only basic information.
Yes, ma'am. I understand. And Mr. Bauersock, he's with Nice to Columbus, and he's actually a realtor. He may be the answer. But we did ask about the roof.
Yeah, but if he's the realtor and he's a member of that organization, then I would like somebody that's not a member of that organization.
I'm just going to suggest that we would have 20 days, so we should have a report back from staff prior to our next commission meeting.
We'd have that before close.
It wouldn't have closed. We'd be in due diligence, and we could, I guess, as a commission, cancel the contract based on that reporting if we wanted to. Would that be correct?
Do you have enough time to do the inspection work?
That's a fairly short due diligence period because one of the conditions that they set in their initial offer was a quick closing. And I actually pushed it out a little bit farther at Al's direction by a week or two past what they wanted. They wanted a really quick closing.
Like a couple of weeks.
Right.
And we can't take possession anyway until February, so.
Well, that's the other thing. They want to retain that building and do whatever. Well, what about the insurance the city's going to have to lay out for that? We now own it. What happens if something happens to somebody in there?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go back with my recommendation that was derived this evening from your initial conversation, which is the compromise approach.
I changed my mind.
Okay, that's I know. I figured after the public input, everybody did.
Mr. Bauersock.
But I mean, I think it's important to answer Commissioner Dennison's questions on the condition of the building, and they're reasonable. I do think, even though it's a tight time for him to close, that we'll have those answers. At the end of the day, you're still buying a 1982 building, and today can look good, and you get a storm tomorrow and have a hole in the roof.
I realize that, but I think
for the investment,
for
the investment that we're making, for the location, for the things that we can do with the building, I'm not as concerned with those issues moving forward. The building is pretty much, for some of these programming issues, in a usable form. Mm-hmm. It's not so much in a usable form for the Wellness Center. And so it's reasonable for the asking price. And I also think, by the way, you asked about parking lot. It doesn't have a parking lot.
Well, where are the kids in the cars?
It's a grass parking lot. You know, there's a place to park, but it has plenty of parking. But I just want it's a grass parking.
All right, so we would have to install a parking lot.
Not necessarily
parking.
Okay, so they're going to play in the mud. This is just basic questions to find out more information. This isn't going to be another park where it's only going to cost us a couple $100,000, but oh, by the way, we need $250,000 in equipment. We need this. We need that.
Well, maybe can we? I don't know if what the seller would do here on it, but my suggestion. I hear the mayor saying let's just buy it, and I can kind of appreciate that too. But I would really like to see a due diligence that's broader than even just what the electric wires look like.
Right.
But if the city would have long enough time to put the plan together and what the building would be used for, how it would be used, how we would deal with all these issues, and give us some time to do that, 3 or 4 months to do it, and if everything checks out, and that we go ahead and buy it, and what I'm suggesting is that we then have, by the time the school year starts in September, or in August, September next year, that whatever modifications needed to be done have been done to the building to move it forward so you can get the kids in there. If that means the Boys and Girls Club gets involved, we have some time to do that in the due diligence period, to talk with them, to try to work out how all that would be paid for. I think what really has, for me, has said, let's just go do this, is I agree. I mean, that the life of that one child that you can potentially change is so valuable, not just the dollar number that the mayor put on it, but the actual change that makes potentially for one child. If something could be put in place by the school year next year to help you make a difference in one child's life, that affects generations for that family, and I know it will help more than one. But I'd like to see a due diligence, and I think that would address Commissioner Dennison's concerns, and we would just, I would just ask the seller to give us the time to do that, to help better our community and the things that we're talking about here today. So.
And I think Mr. Biosok, I think they want you to come much closer, so I can get him a little closer, Brother Kellen. But I think he's been very open, and I think he really would like the city to acquire this facility. You work with the electric department.
I just had open heart surgery a short time ago. Excuse me, with the wheelchair, and the squeaky voice.
Can't hear you.
One thing that's not been brought up here at all is that you own all the property around this property. This is a satellite, 1.25 acres, right in with your electric company all the way around it. So I think it would be advantageous for the city, for no other reason, to have it for that, to contiguous property. Also, there's a full kitchen in this place, restaurant, commercial kitchen. And when the electrical department was interested in it, they were anxious to be able to have that kitchen, to be able to, with storms and things, when employees were working, which you could kind of lend it to them with the program you're talking about. And I don't think the KSCs would have a problem with you doing your due diligence, but I don't see why it would take 4 months. I mean, I'm a real estate broker. We sell commercial buildings. We get termite inspections, all different kind of inspections. A matter of days.
Yeah, and my due diligence is beyond, again, just what the condition the toilet's in. It's about the use of the building and the program and making sure that these pieces come in. I mean, I really think another serious consideration is that we can't just jump into something to do this and you found out that you've hurt private business in Leesburg at the same time. And I think that we need to be sensitive to that and what we do and take that into consideration before we say, hey, let's move forward and do it. So the inspection thing is more than just the wires and the condition of the concrete. It's to give us a chance to listen to the community, put this plan together, make sure that it's something that we can do the right way.
Tonight.
Yeah, but make sure it's something that we can do.
And I think maybe we could put a little fire behind our staff. We can get some of those numbers together from the private business. But I think the reality is you can have a lot of, Connie has 45 kids. She can talk to those 45 girls right now between age 8 and 18 and ask them, can they afford to go to our current programs? And 90% of the parents going to probably say, I can't afford it. And so I think that will be a snapshot of, if you're paying $5 a month to get homemade sewing, and you're not going to pay $125 a week to go to dance lesson or piano or other things. But I think those are the niche of this building, finding a program that's affordable that we can fit. So maybe not 4, but I think if we could get 2 months, that we can get those numbers together the best we can to see how many kids are out there and can they or why aren't they able to access these other programs. And we talking about other programs. I think one of the contenders would be if we go to the Boys and Girls Club in the facility. We have a program here with 45 kids. Can they join together and work together? Say, okay, at 5 o'clock you can have access to the building, as opposed to saying, here's the key, and you can get 100 kids, but these 45 kids still now we're missing them. So I think for me that would be something that we should look at is programs working together, using the facility as with hurricanes that come. Hey, the electric department is going to say, hey, here's a building for you to utilize. So I think all that should be kept in mind that, we want to make sure that this facility that if we're going to purchase it, that it benefits the city of Leesburg, especially even our departments that may need it during hurricanes, or programs that are out there that say, because I started a program in '97 with no money. But because of the help of the city, we was able to continue that program 18 years later. And so I understand what Connie is saying about not having facility to make your vision. Because sometimes all you got is a vision. All you got is a want to. And you just need a little help from your city government to impact lives of people who normally missed out. So Ms. Biles, and we can let Al work with Ms. Biles.
How much time do you need? I guess would be probably
If you're doing a contingency like Bob or Commissioner Bones asking, then you're probably talking a couple months so we can organize, get through this, and get some conditional leases and programs written up, so then we can come back to you, make you feel like you're comfortable that something's going in the building.
Well, how about a commitment for the first commission meeting in February that we finalize? That gives you 2 full months.
Or we keep the property on the market. Keep it on the market. I'm a
Yeah.
no vote now anyway. So keep it on the market for another 10 years, and we'll wait till you're ready to sell it for $200,000 and we'll buy it. We're trying to work here. This is the first time this has been in front of the commission. As you can see tonight through our discussion, we have very opposite views, and we have to work through things because 20 people do not represent the 26,000 people that live here. So we vet these things out. We do our due diligence when we go on any project. It's taken us 18 years, according to Ms. Perry, to build a new community center. So you're not going to push me into a yes vote tonight because you're in a hurry, I'll tell you that. So if you will allow us to do it, I think we could come to some type of agreement. But if y'all want to push a vote tonight, I'll be a no and we'll move on.
We listened to your points. Why can't you listen to ours?
Your point is arguing with us,
No, it
Mr.
isn't.
Bowersox. You're saying vote, the community's already spoke. Vote, there's no sense in waiting. Vote, I can do it in 2 minutes. I'm a
You're
broker.
telling me that the building is not worth what it is?
No, sir, I'm not saying that. We're trying to tell you several times that we're trying to find if it's going to work for us. We're not, I think the building's worth what you're asking. I have no problem for that.
We have an appraisal.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
20-some thousand more dollars.
I call for a vote. I'm done.
Well, I believe we already have a motion and a second on the current
The current
contract.
thing, yes.
Yeah, he's calling the question on the original motion.
Yeah.
We have
And he
his,
withdrew his motion to table it,
And I'm calling
and
for a
now
vote
he's
now.
calling the question.
I second if you didn't have
I didn't have a
anybody.
second,
All right,
yeah.
I will second it.
So he's calling the question on the original motion, which is to buy or not to buy. Is that correct?
Yes.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to
No, you
amend
got to
the
vote on
I wanna
calling the question first.
amend it to,
We vote on calling the question on whether we're going to.
So now you got to vote on whether you're going to vote. So if you
Yeah.
want to talk more, you vote no. If you want to vote, you vote yes.
okay.
Roll call.
Commissioner Christian,
No, we're going to talk some more.
Commissioner Hurley,
No, I don't want to talk anymore.
No, you want to vote
so you
yes.
vote yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison,
Yes.
Commissioner Bone,
No.
Mayor Roebuck.
No.
Sorry.
Well, I'd like to
So
make
now
a
you're
motion
back
to
into-
amend the motion to, we have a motion to approve this contract on the
Yes.
table. So I'd like to make a motion to amend that to modify the contract to put a 2-month due diligence period.
Closing, can you just call it a closing date with a due diligence for, what was the, it was
I would make it
December 12th?
a due diligence of until, what, February 1st, a due diligence, and then closing by March the 1st. If
That makes sense. So due diligence till February 1st with a closing date of March 1st
Right.
to amend the
And that
contract as such.
And that due diligence would allow the city to back out of the contract for any reason.
Yeah, and but then that motion will also allow Mr. Bowersox to back out. If they don't want to wait till March, he can take his contract back now and say, forget it, we don't have a deal.
Yep.
Right.
And then it won't even be back before you.
Yep.
Just before you get a second on that, would there be so our first meeting we're the second and fourth is the 11th? Is the 11th of March. Would there be a reason to postpone it, to hold the closing off for another 20 days?
I think once the due diligence is done,
Once the due diligence is done, it'll be the second or fourth meeting in
so we need the
February that it
second
would be
meeting.
for you. So no, the March 1 date is right. That'll give us 2 meetings to close on it.
So you want 2 meetings, sorry. Yeah. Actually, the one date there, but yeah. Okay. Okay. So we need a second.
Well, I second it. Mr. Bowersox, you okay with that?
I have to take it to the KSC.
Okay.
Okay. Any discussion on the amendment? No. Discussion from the public on the amendment? Okay. Roll call.
Commissioner Hurley,
No.
Commissioner Dennison,
What is the current amendment?
It is to extend to amend the contract to allow for due diligence period until February 1st with a closing date of March 1st.
Yes.
Commissioner Bone,
Yes.
Commissioner Christian,
Yes.
Mayor Robuck.
Yes. Okay, so now on to the motion as amended. Any further discussion? Discussion from the public? Roll call.
Commissioner Dennison.
Hold on, I think we have some public discussion on that motion again. Hey, you have to come up to the front. Yes, ma'am.
I apologize for being so late. My name is Emily Waddington. I am 18 years old. I am from your general youth. I felt it might be necessary to clarify that youth may have problems, as you say, but unless the youth or the parents choose to seek out the help, no matter what programs you're putting forth, if they are not being recognized or sought out, they're not gonna make a difference. You gotta motivate us to want to seek that out. And you see a lot of ads and stuff saying this could be for our betterment, but it doesn't explain to us anything. It tells you the basic, this is here, but I don't see people get together and actually talk about what it is. I'm very touched by the women who came up here to discuss about their own experiences. I personally have been very blessed in having many things provided for me. I did get to experience dance class. I did get to experience karate. I got to experience photography. If it means enough to you, you will find a way to pursue it. Whether or not that means going out of your way, out of Leesburg, to make things work. I understand that not everyone can afford the same things that I was able to. And we can back these private companies up and say that we don't want to steal from them. But I also think that these private companies should make efforts to be all inclusive. But I mean, as far as a teen environment, you can talk to us. We like to talk. We might be really nervous, like me. I'm up here like shaking, like, where are my words? I had so many earlier. But from the age of 10 up until now, I have always been informed of things. And I think it's partially the generation before us. It's their responsibility to educate us on how to deal with these situations, because we're just now coming into them as like 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds, and we don't really know. So teach us so we know how to respond, so we can better ourselves and the community. Just
Thank
an
you.
idea.
Thank you. We had one more comment. Okay. Oh, yes, sir.
Can I say something?
Of course.
My name's Joseph Seaton. Born in Eustis, 1958. Graduated Leesburg High School in '76 with the Art Award. Got a scholarship. The arts. One of the most important things we can teach our children is the arts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, roll call.
Wait.
Commissioner Dennis, huh?
Cindy, did you want to say something?
She said that.
Okay.
Commissioner Dennis?
Repeat the,
Do you want to buy it or
Yeah.
not?
This is to purchase the building as amended.
yes.
Commissioner Bone?
Yes.
Commissioner Christian?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley?
No.
Mayor Roebuck?
Yes. Okay, on to our routine items. Might be a set a record for the longest consent agenda. Public hearings and
One item poll.
for one item. Public hearings and non-routine items. 5A. Someone would like to introduce.
I'll introduce and ask it. We're not reading.
Do we have to
Read the title on this?
No, we have to read. Do we have to read these by title?
Yeah, this one we have to.
Yeah.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, annexing certain real property consisting of approximately 15 acres, being generally located on the north side of State Road 44 and east of Whitney Road, lying in Section 20, Township 19 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, providing that said property so annexed shall be liable for its proportionate share of the existing and future indebtedness of said city, providing that such annexed property shall be subject to all laws and ordinances of said city, as if all such territory had been a part of the City of Leesburg at the time of passage and approval of said laws and ordinances, providing that such annexed territory shall be placed in City Commission District 3, and providing an effective date.
Mr. Mayor, I just had one comment, and this came up also at the Carver Heights Meeting Resource Center, right down the back of Beach Road where the trucks are coming in. They've torn that road apart. And I wanted to bring pictures, but I was working on this other Griffin Road building, but I bring some pictures coming off Beach Road on the back end where the dump trucks are coming in. The road is crumbled, so the community is, I think they were trying to get the mayor to pay for it last meeting, but I think that needs to be addressed.
That's a city road?
No, I think it's county road.
It's a county road.
They remember they were trying to get you to pay for it. They was
At the, that was in the visioning
right.
the visioning session.
And this is the road they're talking about.
This is
and
the one.
And they have all those dump trucks from Parkett coming through the back of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So can you talk to them about that then? Thank you.
Okay. Any comments? Other comments from the commission, or comments from the public?
I did just. My comment on this, it goes back to the bicycle paths. I think this is probably one of the properties I was mentioning the last commission meeting, that as we start dealing with these properties out 44 West, are we going to take into consideration the potential tying into our bike path, or rails to trails?
Right there.
Is this it right here on Jones Road?
Yeah.
Okay, so there you are. So there's Jones. So this is the first piece actually that would start connecting to that potentially.
Go straight.
So Commissioner Christian's pointing to the to Jones Road there as it goes west, and then it connects to the subject right there to the subject property. So that Jones Drive is where our rails to trails is. So I just think it's important that we try to figure out a way to connect our bicycle amenities out to the villages.
And it's used a lot too. From the villages there, they ride through all the time.
And Dan, am I correct in this? If the county were to say, based on the PUD, that they need to do something to Veach Road back there in terms of, I don't even think it's all paved, is it? Is it all paved? Okay. If they would need to make improvements to that road, then they would have to do that, and then they could actually credit that against transportation impact fees, I believe, going forward.
Dan Miller, Planning and Zoning. If the county said that they needed to do some work on Beach Road, they would be required to do that. That would be between the county and the developer if there was some impact fee credit on that.
Okay, I think they do get them. So, anyways, so can you make sure that the county gets the message on
They will.
that? Okay, any comments from the public? Okay, so that's first reading, so we'll lay over to our next meeting, 5B, if someone could introduce.
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only, please.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, amending the comprehensive plan by changing the future land use map designation of certain property containing 15 plus minus acres from Lake County urban medium density to City of Leesburg industrial for property generally located north of State Road 44 and east of Whitney Road as legally described in Section 20, Township 19 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Any comments from the commission? Comments from the public? Okay, that'll lay over to our next meeting, if someone could introduce 5C.
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only, please.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, rezoning approximately 39.57 plus minus acres from Lake County A agricultural to PUD plan unit development to allow for industrial and commercial development for property generally located north of State Road 44 and east of Whitney Road as legally described in Section 20 and 29, Township 19 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Comments from the commission? Comments from the public? Okay, that will lay over to our next meeting, 5D, if someone could introduce.
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only, please.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, annexing certain real property consisting of approximately 46.5 acres, being generally located north of U.S. Highway 441, south of North Silver Lake Road, and southeast of County Road 44, in Section 1, Township 19 South, Range 25 East, Lake County, Florida, providing that said property so annexed shall be liable for its proportionate share of the existing and future indebtedness of said city, providing that such annexed property shall be subject to all laws and ordinances of said city, as if all such territory had been a part of the City of Leesburg at the time of passage and approval of said laws and ordinances, providing that such annexed territory shall be placed in City Commission District 1 and providing an effective date.
Just to let everyone know, on the agenda, this says refers to this POCAT. This is actually the annexation of the Silver Lake property. So I know we have a lot of people for that one. So any comments from the commission on the annexation piece? Comments from the public on the annexation?
Which one are you talking about? Right on 44 and Silver?
Yes.
Road?
Yes.
I have something.
Okay, yeah, if you could come to the mic.
Yes, my name is Mark Hughley. I'm a planner, city manager. I've done zoning, comprehensive plans for 37 years. And I guess I'm real concerned on this. I don't know Richard how Florida works completely. And I'm sorry, hopefully you can understand me. I'm trying very hard. But a lot of us spend tons of money, lots of money to buy homes along Silver Lake Drive. Now you understand that the old golf course has already been slated for 200 and some odd homes are going to be built there. Now we're talking about doing another large thing right behind. Has there been any traffic studies? Has there been any environmental studies? What's it gonna do to the environment? What's it gonna do to the adjoining properties? I mean, I guess I just don't understand this. The guy said, you know, I wanna annex it and put up a bunch of apartments. Well, knock yourself out. I mean, is there anything for us to review before you all approve this? I mean, that I know from experience, people say, I'm gonna build this and it's gonna be these. Well, that doesn't pan out. Then you find them at the housing and urban development asking for grant money to make them low to moderate income housing or whatever. And that's fine as long as you know what's coming. we don't have any idea. All we've heard is a bunch of homes are gonna be, a bunch of apartments gonna be built back there. And even with the ones that are further on back on the property, there is loud noise, there's gunfire, and there's a lot of things going on at night. And is this gonna double or triple our concerns? I mean, I'm asking for you all to please really, really look at this, because there's a number of people here and there's a number of people around that lake. Somehow we became the undesignated road for all car dealers to do all of this driving on Silver Lake Road. Hell, I bet they'll people parallel park because everybody's on Silver Lake Road. There's no discussion making the road bigger, doing anything about the ingress, egress. Is we're gonna throw a bunch of apartments back there on that clear property. I'm gonna ask that you please look at it very carefully, because you may in fact be able to help many people, and you may in fact be able to destroy many people at the same time. So I'm gonna ask you to please look at it. And there may be other people that have things to say, but I've only been here 4 years, and I've never seen it done this way. To throw out the zoning, we're gonna change the zoning, and we're gonna do the apartments. So that's my real serious concern.
Good evening. My name is Patricia Stark. I've been a resident of Silver Lake for almost 30 years. I've been a member of the medical community. I'm a registered nurse for close to 50 years. And my concern with annexing this property and subsequently building over or close to 250 units is that we're now going to have 2 cars per unit, 500 cars coming in and out of that North Silver Lake Road. That's all proposed.
Okay, no comments from the audience. The speakers only, please.
So that road is a 1/4 mile. That North Silver Lake Road is a 1/4 mile. The traffic already on Silver Lake, without having built on that old country club road, that old country club property that we're expecting another 233 units, we're now talking about close to 1,000 cars. So going back to my medical thing, I'm very concerned with safety. I've seen really bad car accidents at that intersection of 44 and North Silver Lake Road. There's nothing more horrific than to have to jump out of your car to go save a life. And that's what's going to happen there when you have 1,000 cars going up and down that road. We've already got a huge burden on 441. That's a 3-lane road. You guys, when you drive up and down 441, it's all headlights, thousands of cars. We're adding in this little small community another 1,000. Please hold off on annexing and subsequently building 246 units. Please hold off. For my safety, for your safety, and all our residents in that community. Please. Thank you.
My name is Greg Clark. I am a resident of Silver Lake. I also own a business that's adjacent to the property. So this is a double-edged sword, I guess you might say, for me. Because, yes, I would welcome new people to sell automobiles to. But being a resident of the community and seeing all this piled on us at once with the Silver Lake property, I welcome that. That's, Lord knows, it's been an ugly eyesore for too many years. But what I'm saying is this really isn't smart growth. You're putting these houses in a sand mine. It's where the area is. And it's a high density. people that's going to be packed in there. And we've seen too much from right across the hill with the community that's right across the hill, right across 441. Long story short, I think it's poor planning. It was failed by the planning and zoning. City felt like it was, I guess, worthy. I haven't seen a good argument for that, other than it Dan selling some products for Romac lumber. But at any rate, that's what I'm saying. I just think it's really poor place.
I happen to be the next Clark in line. I'm Cindy Clark DeVries, and I also live on Silver Lake Drive. I've been there for 30 some odd years. Most of those 30 some odd years I was working, so I wasn't at home. However, I have been within the last 8 years. I'm at home. I see what's going on. And Mr. Christian, Mr. Bone, I see you kind of making I guess a joke about the, I don't know what you're making a joke about.
We don't know.
But we don't find this funny. Within the last 2 or 3 months ago, I'm coming around Silver Lake Drive, and where you're talking and bringing in another 500 to 1,000 cars, I almost got T-boned, and it's because this traffic, where you're talking about bringing in this traffic, somebody hasn't done their homework. And I don't even know how this project got to your committee from the last committee, because I thought when we were at the last committee, this was a done deal, that you guys had turned this down. And for it to even get this far, it's beyond my comprehension. Again, Mr. Roebuck or Mayor Roebuck, I would like to know, is this important to you, your family members, or corporate, or whatever? If this project goes through, I don't know, and I really don't care. What I do care about is my community, and I've been there for over 30 years. And you can smile and you can do whatever you want to do, sir. But I am telling each and every one of you that this is a serious thing. This community cannot afford to have another 500 to 1,000 cars come through here. You're already at risk going around the lake every day. We have runners that go around. We have parents, they walk their children each and every day in strollers. Now, I tell you what, put another 500 or 1,000 cars on that lake and see how many accidents that you might have. And the other thing I might add is somebody hasn't done their homework, because if you'd done your homework, you would have seen all the accidents that have come across on that curve that goes down to where you're talking about turning into. If you just do your homework on that, but you're not even doing that homework. Turn into that area, and I promise you, you can hardly, if you don't know the area, there's been too many people. My husband and I own the property across the highway on the west side of 44, and we have had to replace that fence many times because of people not being able to stop and going through the fence. I dare say how many times my brother has, and his wife, have replaced their fence. And it's been many, many times. So how many more accidents do you want to cause? And I promise you, it will be on you. Because unless you do your homework, I am telling you, there will be more accidents on that curve and on Silver Lake because you feel the need for development. Development, don't get me wrong, I love it, I'm behind it 100%, but it's got to be the right development and in the right areas and with the right integrity. And that's the bottom line, is integrity. Do it right or don't do it.
Thank you for those comments. Since you and your brother decided to personally address me, I just would also, to make it clear for other people, if you had done your homework, you would have realized that the Planning and Zoning is an advisory board, and all things before the Planning and Zoning Board come to us, and that traffic is regulated on those roads by the county, not the city, and that specific to any PUD, that any traffic study done by the county would then have to be, any improvements would have to be paid for by the developer. I also find it rich that I'm being lectured by two people who made their entire money and can afford to live in these nice houses by selling cars, that cars are evil and going to cause traffic wrecks and all of this. I mean, it's just it's just absurd. You can have legitimate issues with this development, but to sit here and say that development is good unless it comes in my backyard, that you just lose me. And I never address people, but you decided to go after me personally, so I just wanted to point that out now. Yeah. Did you have another procedural issue?
Yeah, there was a couple, past speaker brought up some procedural issues, and because there's a number of people in the audience, and this is a confusing issue, I think it's important to kind of just give you the quick debrief on the procedural issues. The city tonight is considering an annexation. When a city in the state of Florida takes in a parcel of property for annexation, we have to do 3 steps. We have to annex the property, then we have to do a comprehensive plan amendment for the property, which is the long-term view of the property, a future land use, if you will, and then we have to do a zoning on the property. Those 3 things take 3 separate ordinances, one for each one. They're all related together. Also, in this case, whenever you do an annexation, which triggers the rezoning and the comprehensive plan amendment, the Planning and Zoning Board is required to review it. So this matter went before the Planning and Zoning Board. The Planning and Zoning Board recommended to the Commission not to do the annexation, not to do the rezoning, and not to do the comprehensive plan amendment. Staff recommended to do all 3. Tonight before the Commission, the first step is annexation. They have, this is a little odd, but they have an option here. Their option is they can vote for first reading. What this will do is then it will send, because this is now a kink in the cog here, because this is an issue larger than 10 acres, before it can come back for second reading on the annexation, the zoning, and the comp plan, it has to go before the state of Florida for their comments. So all the comments that are being brought up by the public tonight that are in opposition to this annexation will be further reviewed by the state before this would come back to the City Commission for final consideration. However, the City Commission does have the option tonight that if they do not want to consider this, they can vote no on this annexation, and then that will kill E and F. That's just the procedural overview. There was the question of, why has this not been dead? It's not been dead because it hasn't followed the proper procedure. We're doing that tonight.
Sir.
I'm not here to assault anybody. My name is Walter Hardman, and I also live on Silver Lake. I have the second house from North Silver Lake, be on the south side of North Silver Lake Road. So I'm directly abutting this property. And we went to the zoning and commission meeting, and the reason they turned that down, for what I understand, is that it only had the one entrance going into this 46.5 acres. And it was going to dump a ton of traffic onto that particular road, which it was either going to come around our lake, which after they put the arbors in, we definitely got to increase the traffic. Plus we're getting traffic that comes down 44 from use of this area. making our way over to the mall. I bought my lot there back in '99. I put up a house on 2 acres. And this is what our problem is. I have 6,400 square feet on the roof, and it's a very nice home. At the time, back in, I guess it was 2006, when the Arbors came before Leesburg, we came out as a homeowners association strongly against this, that we didn't want them to put in these apartments. I guess there's 120 units back there. At the time, we were promised by the zoning commission that they would make, with the remaining acreage, Eric Coe owns all this, we were promised at that time that they would make a real nice transition between our homes and those apartments. Eric Coe, I couldn't tell you what year it was, he tried to develop quarter-acre house lots on that remaining acreage, and we came out in opposition against that. I couldn't tell you what year it was, but they also nixed that one. And now he's trying to put over 220 apartments behind this. And our problem is that this isn't what we would, Silver Lake, consider a nice transition to our homes. Every single one of you people would be upset too if you lived on that lake and you see what's happening to our community. We have a very nice community. It's very quiet, and that's why I built there. I ride a bike there every Saturday, and the traffic is really bad. My son and I, about 2 months ago, because of some individual coming so close to us, he ended up on the road and broke his arm. You know, it is a real concern to us as citizens over there. Blueberry Hill has, what I could get offline, they've got 68 units. I mean, we're overloaded with apartments down in that area, and I begin to think that the only way that Silver Lake is going to be able to maintain our nice community is to shut this particular road off, to cut this traffic off coming down around our lake. I don't even know if that's possible or if that's something that could be done. But you know, we have a problem over there, and people are upset, and you know that's why we come out here tonight. We're hoping that this commission would have mercy upon us, and I assume at some point Silver Lake's going to be annexed into Leesburg. But you people really should consider trying to maintain this community as it is. Our homes are over there. And we'd appreciate it if you'd really consider that for us.
Can I ask a question? Because you mentioned another, there was a second proposal that had come in, and I couldn't quite catch what that one was. The first one, I think you said some apartments, but then they came in sometime later, and did you say 4-acre home sites?
No, they were trying to build quarter-acre
home sites.
Quarter acres. And at the zoning commission, I mentioned to them that I wouldn't be against them building half-acre homes back there. And Eric Coe's representative, his name was Greg Bellevue. Yeah,
he's behind you there.
Is he here? He said we couldn't sell those lots up against the Arbors. But he's trying to put all these apartments in up on my house. I don't understand how they can't sell however lots, but if he wants to put over 220 apartments on us, it's ridiculous. And you know, we're just upset about this whole process. Not here to insult or anything. We're asking you people to consider our homes over there, and we're asking you not to pass this where they can put up these apartments. And I definitely would be willing, if they want to build homes back there, to support that. But they need to be on a normal sized lot, not piled on top of each other. Thank you.
I'll go very fast. My name is Deborah Hartley Fuquay. I'm his neighbor, and I can even show you where my house is. Maybe I won't, but it's in that general direction, right in there. I don't understand why this map is not showing the lake that's there. There's a man-made lake right there, which is nasty and brown and completely just a dirty thing, which is going to force, I guess, yeah, there's the back of us. It's going to force all these houses along here to take advantage of that ugly lake. This all the way to there is where you hear the gunshots and the loud partying. It's horrible. I sit out every night. I teach at an alternative school, so I'm not a snob. And I also taught at Leesburg High. I know well the kids that you're trying to talk about tonight, but that is a bad idea. We never were given the opportunity to buy acreage behind ourselves. That would have been a good resolution. All of a sudden, they're just going to annex it, and it's out of our hands. So that's all I have to say.
Some of the comments, Greg Beliveau with LPG representing Dr. Coe. Some of the comments made that we didn't provide any of the backup material dealing with the environment, traffic studies, etc. Actually, we did. As part of this process, we have to. When you're dealing with comprehensive plan amendments and PUDs, your staff makes that mandatory that we provide all those documents. All those documents have been provided. And the environmental assessment found that we had gopher tortoises, which is pretty regular when you're dealing with vacant properties. And for us to proceed going through the process, if we're allowed to go through the process all the way through, we're going to have to get through our permitting process to go through the relocation of those as part of the regular development scenarios. That's very common. The other component is we did a traffic analysis with a firm out of Volusia County, LTG Engineering and Planning, did a full evaluation of traffic impacts for this project. One of the things everybody has to realize is the traffic analysis is based on not zero development on the project. You don't go from nothing to this development scenario. Everybody's been used to just looking at it as you see it on the screen, which is vacant, and they get very comfortable with being a vacant track, assuming that that's basically the comfort level that's there, and then going from that to our proposed 256 units. But the traffic analysis is based on what could be there versus the 256 units. And what could be there is right now 78 units, because it's 4 units per acre. That's what's currently there based on the comp plan that's there now. So you base your analysis on 78 versus 256. And the traffic analysis, when you look at those two variables and you look at the traffic impacts, it's a very different scenario when you look at the traffic impacts based on those two scenarios. At peak hour, PM peak hour, which is what the MPO and the county looks at, you're looking at 78 PM peak trips with the land use versus 113 at 256 units. Well, that's the only difference between the two. 78 versus 113. That's not that big of a difference between those two scenarios. The traffic model shows where the traffic is going to go based on the type of roads and based on where employment opportunities are and where shopping opportunities are. And the model then bases that impact. Where are the traffic going to go? Where are the most employment opportunities are? And it's all done by a computer. And it showed that 2/3 of the trips are going to go west, and 1/3 of the trips are going to go east. And it looks at the type of road systems. Well, even based on that scenario, and it looks at the number of trips, again, based on the current use versus the proposed use. And the impact is an increase of 12. It's an increase of 12 trips at PM peak. That's it, between the current and the proposed. This isn't my analysis. This is a professional traffic engineer. That's it at PM peak. So you got to look at what's there now and available to go there now versus what we're proposing. So that's what the impacts are. When you're looking at 4 units per acre versus what we're doing, that's the overall impacts. Now the model is because where is the employment opportunities? Well, employment opportunities are to the west because of what's to the west. To the west is basically the employment opportunities are who is creating over 1,000 jobs a year. What is that entity? It's the villages. And the villages clone and the response to the villages employment opportunities that are happening even in Leesburg itself. You're having a rebirth of your downtown because of that employment impacts. The employment opportunities that are along the road network between here and Wildwood. All those employment opportunities are creating a need for the housing. In our discussions with staff and others, including Lake County Public Works, they've asked for and we are providing right-of-way along the road system abutting us. We are proposing to widen that road system. We've worked with them on the intersection at 44 and Silver Lake Road. We're providing road improvements at that intersection to access the road system easier. Also to provide more right-of-way on our side of the road system for the utility access. In chatting with Lake County and chatting with the district commissioner, we're providing a fence and wall system around our entire project, providing a gate access instead of open access. So there'll be a wall and gate along our perimeter, obviously not around the lake portion, but around all the property-wise. We're also providing a 50-foot buffer along where all the houses are to include landscape buffers and a wall. So everything along where those homes are located, there's a 50-foot landscape berm or landscape buffer with a wall, fenced wall on the front, and along where the other apartments are.
Can you turn it that way, Greg, so everybody can see it out there as well?
So there's a 50-foot buffer here, a wall across the front, gate, landscape buffer, and a wall.
Okay, but it does not include here where it abuts this property.
Not a 50-foot because it's vacant.
That's our property.
And well, push comes to shove, but that's not what we're proposing tonight. In addition, we've been asked to put conditions, and we voluntarily put a condition to guarantee so that there is no risk or threat that this will be anything but an open market development. There's a condition placed on the PUD that states that no financing will ever be low income or any other type of subsidized financing. We volunteer to put that as a condition in our PUD, that it will only be open market project. So that way there's no threat that there will be any threat to this being a subsidized project. That is, we voluntarily put that in our PUD and on our plans. So that will go along with the project to safeguard that aspect of it. Because we've heard so many comments about what if, what if, what if. That cannot happen now because it's a condition of our PUD. The other item is people want to know is why is there such a need for this kind of apartment complex? Why do we need such an apartment complex? We have too many apartments already. Well, a neighboring county, because of the villages, in June of this year, did their own market study to find out, in fact, is there a need for this type of market? Well, their market study actually showed that market-driven apartment complexes were a viable need within this market. That the actual need, and I'll quote from the market study, I was surprised. An analysis of the historic growth and projected growth trends indicates an opportunity to provide additional residential development. Based on these trends, an additional 3,256 residential units will be needed. And that's just in the near future because of the growth in that market area to the west. That's the kind of job growth that they create. This type of open market, and that's just in this market only, not the subsidized, not in the other markets. That was strictly for this type of market. I'll be glad to answer any questions. I'm addressing all three items on the agenda. I'd rather not have to come up for the comp plan or the PUD, because I feel I've addressed those two as well, and to save time. We've been here a long time tonight. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
What is the price on the apartments?
They'll probably start for the one bedrooms or about $900 and go all the way up to $1,800 for the 3 bedrooms. These are not.
So these are not to purchase, these are to rent?
No, these are rentals. Yeah, because right now the rental market is very, very strong because these are not townhouses. Right now, millennial markets as well as two households are looking at rentals. That is one of the strongest markets now in the Central Florida area. That's a very, very strong market. They're looking at getting into the rental markets first before they buy a home. And that's just the way the market is right now. I just went to a conference in West Palm Beach for APA, and that was several of the sessions. That's the way they're leaning towards. The comment that the gentleman made about why Dr. Coe isn't going to put half-acre lots out here. It's half-acre lots out here with those apartments next door is the reason why Dr. Coe looked at that as an option, and with the 2 apartment complexes, actually 3 apartment complexes to our west, and us looking across that lake to the back walls and backyards of those strip centers, and Babette's Furniture. It's just not conducive for us to try to put any kind of a subdivision on half-acre lots. I mean, it's not conducive to that market. I mean, for the same reason, they're having problems with those complexes. Our apartments are not in those markets. Our apartments are upscale from those apartments. We're the next tier up, or even higher. That's where we want to be a buffer from those to the west of us, to them.
Do you know what the transportation impact fees from the project are, roughly? I don't know what the county charges on a multifamily.
Just a little bit less than the single family.
Okay.
So it's going to be. I know the school impact fees are probably going to be close to $2 million.
The total city, county, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I know the whole amount for a single family is about $12,000
For a
single family resident.
What was the transportation? I was wondering the transportation.
Yeah,
I think they just raised it to what, like 1,000 on a.
For a single family residence on a single lot, based on the size of the house, it'll range from $500 to $590.
Right, for transportation.
For transportation
They're
only.
raising that actually. But,
For the apartments, it'll be down. I don't have that off the top of my head. I think it's about $375 per unit.
Okay, but I know for schools, the school impact fees.
This is based on the value, right? Yeah, so you're talking about, over $100,000 and transportation fees for them to deal with the roads.
Yeah.
And then what were you thinking the value of the complex is built out?
I think you said it was going to be over $10 million.
Right. Okay.
How many parking
10 to 12.
spaces?
Pardon me?
How many parking spaces?
How many parking spaces? Off the top of my head, 1.5 per unit.
Okay.
So, but I know he's talking about a little over $10 million of investment. He's talking about, and I know school impact fees are going to be about $2 million.
Yeah, that's us.
$2 million in school impact
The
fees.
county's higher.
So Greg, are you adding security
Yes.
at all? So you gonna be armed security or just somebody
I have
opening
no
it?
idea. I know he's going to have security.
So I have a question on the neighbors there. They're Lake County zoning there, the R1. What's our equivalent for that in Leesburg? What would that be?
RE1, 1 unit per acre.
Okay, so 1 unit per acre. And so how many residential zoning districts are between this use? What would this be? I mean, we're doing a PUD, but it's high density residential? Is that what are we calling this one? High density?
Mm-hmm.
So high density is how many per acre?
Maximum of 18.
18 per acre. So we've got a neighborhood on one side that has 1 unit per acre and then 18 per acre right next door. We don't have anything in between that in our zoning code that between 18 per acre and 1 per acre?
Oh, yes, you have several.
Oh, yeah. So wouldn't they make a better buffer?
That's possibly, yes.
So what do we have in there? So we have everything from
in high density in Leesburg, it's 18. Medium density is 12. Low density is 4.
Those are your 3.
Those are 3 main.
So there's more room for, adjusting buffers that are more reasonable for, between an R1 type district, and you don't have to go 0 to 60.
Well, the problem is, can you market it? You can pick one. Problem is, can you market it and sell it when you have that location? That's the problem.
That becomes their problem. On the other side is that now you've gone from 0 to 60 and you have 18 units per acre, and so now they have theirs to deal with.
Well, that's why we went ahead to provide the 50-foot buffers.
Well, why don't you put a 50-foot buffer around that and go to something more moderate in the transition there?
Well, because we're looking south and we have this great view. There's no way we can buffer to the south. We can't stop looking at the back end of Babette's, the strip commercial, and everything else. There's no way we can put a buffer. I can't float a wall in that lake. That's my problem.
I think one of the biggest problems is, and I have a couple things here to speak to, but I do know this property butts up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
We butt up to 5 homes.
5 homes.
Yeah, that's all.
On the backside, with already all the houses having more than 50-foot buffer between them and this piece of property because of where the houses are landed on the acreage. But the thing that I'm a little confused with, everybody keeps saying this isn't on Silver Lake. You would think that this is going to go on the golf course. This is on 44 beside 2 other already apartment complexes, which is the state's road and their responsibility. We're not building it on Silver Lake. We can't control the traffic that was on Silver Lake in 85, 2005. Today, people like to drive around Silver Lake because it's pretty. People in Parmore Park call because too many cars on Lakeshore Drive because it's pretty. People out in Pixiola call and complain because there's too much traffic down at the end of that because it's scenic and it's pretty. It's public roads. People have a right to drive on them. If you want to live in the country where it's not pretty, move out to the country and live on a road that nobody wants to see. I think my issue is, and we are obviously we're a long ways from the decision of this. It's real early in the decision process. But I do think that it's a little, I think it's inappropriate to come into a commission meeting and to take pot shots at commissioners here, and then to listen to somebody make a statement as asinine as there's going to be 1,000 cars. It seems like whatever little buzzword gets thrown up in group settings like this, everybody takes it as gospel and as truth. And there's no fact behind that myth or that stuff that people just blow out in the air and say there's going to be 1,000 cars driving around Silver Lake. No, there's not. No, there's not. There's 1,000 cars driving around Silver Lake right now because there's 14 car dealerships up there that we all show our car lots on because it's pretty. That's what we do. So, first off, I just want to address several things here. Gunshots do not mean it's a bad neighborhood. Number one, you don't know if it's coming from that neighborhood. The chief of police right now is pulling all reports because it's annexed into the city, so in about 2 minutes, I'll tell you how many calls for service we've had there, and I'll tell you how many calls for service I've had in your neighborhood as well. Gunshots come because people live in the county, and in the county, well, heck, you can shoot your gun. Mr. Clark can shoot a gun on his backyard at target practice if he wants to. Mr. Roebuck can shoot property if he wants to. Why, heck, I sight my AR-15 at my farm because I live in the county and it says I can shoot a gun out there. I'm not a thug. I'm not a bad guy. I'm not out doing drive-by shootings. I live in the county. I can shoot a firearm. So I understand those concerns, but those concerns have been going on. Firearms have been happening since way out there when people started buying homes in the county and they're allowed to do it. When you use phrases like all of a sudden, like this just popped up, like we have no clue. We just showed up tonight and did our first wow. There's something coming up? Sure, we'll stamp it. I hate comments like that. I hate comments that insinuate that our staff has not started the process legally, doing it, binding it, going through the steps, and then to walk into a commission meeting and to be lambasted by people who act like we just got out of bed this morning and found out that there's something that might happen. So for me, there's a lot of unknowns here. I know that there is a tremendous workforce that needs housing right now. You start looking at the mall, you start looking at the hospital, Tiberias Hospital as well as still needing housing. We're trying to put another housing addition over here on Dixie across from the hospital because there's such a workforce for it. The Villages is coming in. This is not Section 8 housing, but we need housing. And I think for me as a commissioner, one of the things that I find so discouraging sitting up here is tonight it's the Silver Lake group that's here because we're building it. Next week we'll come in here because there's somebody who wants to build 28 houses on Radio Road. And so we've already started getting calls from them. We don't want no more neighborhoods on Radio Road. The road's too busy. And then next week we'll hear from Parmore Park because we put in a bench and we didn't need a new bench because that's our front yard and it blocks the view. It seems like everybody wants something to happen, but nobody wants it around them. I've been a cop for over 25 years. I've worked a lot of accidents, ma'am. You're right. That's why we do traffic studies. The nurses don't do it and cops don't do it. DOT does it. And if there's enough accidents at that place, they'll put a traffic light there. They'll widen that road. They'll put a median. That's what they do. So I understand the processes, but I do. I feel sorry for our mayor. I feel sorry for these two commissioners to come up here and sit for 3 hours trying to do our due diligence, literally trying to take your input and then to be rebuked and to be smarted off to and to be accused of things, I think is totally inappropriate. I think that for me, I really want it, all these are first readings, and none of these are anything to vote on. There's a lot of potential here. There's a great workforce that needs nice housing, that needs it. Heck, our city manager at one time was moving into the Arbors because he was waiting until he got his house because it's a nice apartment complex. It's not gunshot, bang, bang, giddy up place. You know, it's a nice apartment complex, and we need those kind of complexes in our neighborhoods. And so, I mean, this is first reading. We have a lot of steps. There's nothing here to vote on. We have to wait for the county and the state to get back with us with their studies. So, you know, I don't even know why we're having 2 hours of conversation when we have so much unknown and all everybody wants to hear is the facts. Tell us what's going to happen, and we don't know because we're still waiting on all the studies you want to know about. So I think that if you'll be patient with us and let us do the due diligence and go through the process, I think that we'll be able to answer the questions for you. I think we'll be able to provide you with the information that you're curious about. Unless you just take your neighbor's stance of, hey, it's going to be tomorrow afternoon and be 1,000 cars on Wednesday, then you're probably going to be discouraged.
Yeah, I wasn't quite finished there. So
I'm sorry.
That's okay. You know, and let me make a comment about the one speaker there. So I think sometimes I know this is probably kind of a scary thing, but sometimes we maybe get to talk a little harshly because we're scared and maybe our insecurities come through, and you say some things that you hopefully didn't particularly mean, but you know, I give consideration to these things seriously, and this is particularly an issue that has been a concern for me. I think that this, you know, I know we'll vote on this at our next meeting, but when you do a comprehensive plan amendment, there's a provision in doing that requires that we take certain things into consideration. And one of those is to determine whether or not a high density land use category is compatible with the neighboring district, which in this case is an R1 rural residential district on one side of the proposed development. And that is a consideration that is made on a quasi judicial level. That's what we are to make that decision. And so there is room in making these decisions that a high-density land use is less compatible to what this property could be used for in consideration of the R1 district. And I will tell you that one of the concerns that I've had for Leesburg, and I don't understand why it's happened, but I can drive all through Leesburg and I will look and see, why did the city ever approve a duplex to go next to that single-family residential home, or that triplex, or that apartment complex to go and be put into single-family neighborhoods, not acre lot neighborhoods, quarter acre lot, you know, they're what these have, but they're single-family homes, and right next to it, you end up with a duplex or triplex. And you can go down 12th Street, for example, in Sunshine, and you can look at those little neighborhoods and see what those triplexes and duplexes do to the single-family residences around them. I have a concern about about throwing an apartment complex next to property that's not located in the city, but that's in the county, and it has 1 unit per acre lots, and to go that extreme in the density level, that's concerning to me. We have even though the Silver Lake's not in Leesburg, I hope that one day they would take some action to annex into Leesburg, and maybe this property could be used for something more conducive along that line. But I do have concerns for the Silver Lake area and preserving property values, because if Silver Lake, even though it's not in the city, if their property values can be stronger, it's going to help our property values in Leesburg to be stronger, because appraisers are going to do their radius, and they're going to say, okay, this piece of property, they don't care whether it's in the city or not particularly, I don't think. They're just looking at what the radius is. And so we want to preserve those property values, and along Silver Lake, those are going to be some of the best we have. I think that the Silver Lake area, I've mentioned this, had a double whammy, and that's hurt Leesburg overall, because their property value is not along Silver Lake, but around the golf course. You lost the golf course, and you had the recession that happened, and I dealt with many people who just lost significant amount of money in their property values there in that area. That hurt Leesburg as a whole. So I think we do want to, even though those properties aren't in Leesburg, we want to help preserve those values and not be driving around years later and say, why did they build these 250 units right next to these 1 acre lots? So I think those things need to be considered. And as far as affordable housing, I was going to talk about this later in my comments. We've got our housing. We've got so much housing in Leesburg that's available, and we just turn our back on it. And it's these neighborhoods that we have where we allow trailers and trucks and people to park 15 cars and to spew out their stuff onto their carports that they can't fit into their house, and they're bringing down our neighborhoods and those property values. And so, for all the good things that we're doing in Leesburg, I think that we neglect looking at what we have and doing everything we can to preserve those property values in our existing neighborhoods and in this neighborhood here in Silver Lake. So don't know which way I'll vote on this, but right now, I have those concerns, and I think there should be something that's the lower density buffer or whatever you want to call it that's there on that property.
Well, what they have beside them right now, I understand where you're coming from, but what is right beside them right now is a high-density apartment complex. It's already there.
So what would I do?
This is just a classier one that's higher end for higher end finances,
I understand, but it's 18 units per acre next to a 1 unit per acre
and that's
development,
what's
and
there
we've
right
got,
now.
it's like going 0 to 60, and we could go 35 instead of going 60.
Well, what I'm saying, all I'm trying to say is there's already 18 per acre there now, beside it, right there.
Across the 43 acres.
Well, actually, from his house, it's probably about 5 acres. But that's my point is the radius is already there, and I'm open. I don't know where I'm going to go either, to be honest with you, Commissioner Bone. I want to look at the totality of it. But I know if we said, let's go across the street and find a straightaway on the other side of Radio Road, other side of north side of 44, we'd be right back here again. And we got a developer trying to develop right now, beautiful, expensive, high-end homes, and we had this room filled up because we're not allowed to let them exit. They can live on Silver Lake and they can pay all the taxes that comes along with living on that valuable property, but Silver Lake says you can't exit your nice gated neighborhood onto our private little Silver Lake Road because we don't want your cars out here. You can live out here, but we don't want your cars. So then now you got to dump all that traffic on the Morningside. Silver Lake says, well, we don't care if you're stuck and it's a hard road and it's a short road. We used to have a golf cart course here that had 1,000 cars a day come in and out to play golf and tennis and receptions, and it was no problem. But this group says we don't want them on our road. So now those developers backed out and had to resell. Now we are years down the road, and now all that traffic's going to dump out right before you get to a stop sign behind one guy's house and Overton Drive on the Morningside, because nobody cares about anybody else. But they'll come right here and say, hey, we don't like this, so pull the plug on it and tell everybody to go another place. And that's just where I have issues, you know. Nobody wants to work together, and every single time we get a project here, it's something that just flew in out of the west wind, and everybody wants to fight it and tell them to go somewhere else.
Any other comments from the commission?
We're on D, right?
We're on
Yes,
D,
sir.
but hopefully we'll just get all the comments out on D because these are applying to.
When we get to E, I do want to make
Okay.
an amendment.
Right. Well, we're just on first reading, but yeah, we
No,
can have
we
some
can
comments.
make
Sure.
an amendment.
E is a comp plan amendment.
Oh,
You would have
okay.
to transmit to the state,
Gotcha.
so you
Okay.
need to vote on that one.
Understood. Okay. Any other comments from the public? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Susan Waddington. Our property also abuts this, proposed property. And really, I've been sitting here all evening listening to talk about community. You want to annex this area so that we will be part of the Leesburg community, basically, via as you progress out. If you want us to be part of the Leesburg community, yes, do have some consideration of how it affects our current community and how you can integrate into that community without a lot of these hurt feelings and unnecessary words. I'm sure that you can put in a reasonable development and put in safety protocols for our current walkers, joggers, and children who are out on the road. I'm sure that you can do this. So what I'm really just saying is, please try your best to do so for the betterment of our community, the city, the county, Leesburg. Okay? That's all I want.
Thank you.
Mine's quick. Mine's real quick. I just have 3 more considerations that you need to think about. That road, North Silver Star,
Yes, ma'am.
I go there every morning at 6 o'clock, and on a Thursday, you can't pass the garbage truck. One of us has to go on the grass. That's how narrow that road is. Okay, so he says they're gonna change it. That coming out onto County Road 44, everybody's coming from wherever, and they're going 60 miles an hour. You cannot get out on that road until you wait for the long trail of them to go and grab the end. Just a consideration. Anyway, the other thing is, I lived in Windermere for 26 years. You could never put rooftops on without being able to retain the runoff that was going to go into the lake. You put that much roof space more, and this is all an incline. Every back part that butts up to this is an incline. Goes slopes to the lake. So the runoff will go to the lake, and you have to consider that because it's a pretty lake, and this would be one of the things that could kill it.
No, you do understand that the first 2 things the developer is actually going to pay to fix.
He's going to pay them to fix the road, he said.
The road and the intersection, both.
Right, but there's nothing in the plan that says that they're going to retain the runoff from the road line.
That would be in there too.
We have to by St. John's Water Management District. We have to do that anyway.
Just for notes, just to, since the chief went through the work to do it, the arbors in 1 year had a total of 53 calls, counting secure checks where they just drive through. If you go across the street of 441 to the Lake Harris Cove, which is behind Lowe's and Ruby's Tuesday, they had a little over 350 calls in the last year. So obviously there's a major difference between a nice apartment complex and some of our struggling section assisted housing complexes. Just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, so this item will roll over to not the next meeting, but
A date to be
a date to be determined, which will be advertised.
Yes.
Okay, so now we're on to 5E, I believe, if someone would like to introduce.
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only, please.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, amending the comprehensive plan future land use map designation of certain property containing 46.5 plus minus acres for property generally located north of U.S. Highway 441, south of North Silver Lake Road, and southeast of County Road 44, as legally described in Section 1, Township 19 South, Range 25 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
We need a motion to approve before you make
No, it was the
amendment.
first.
Oh,
It's
I
the
thought this
first
is the one we're
read.
transmitting.
You have to
Yeah, but you
Move
don't.
to transmit or not
It's
transmit.
a move
okay,
to
gotcha.
transmit,
Sorry.
right. Just in case you wonder what's going on, this is the transmittal part that would go to the state and to the county. And I am asking for an amendment on this reading to not transmit it under any circumstance, which actually will kill this project. So,
Do what?
not transmit this either now or in the future. I want to put an amendment on this to cancel this project, cancel the transmittal, and just end this at Silver Lake. We'll have discussion on that.
Well, we'll have to, because
You need a second.
You need a
for the motion.
second.
I also need a second.
Seeing no second, do we have a move to transmit?
we have what?
Do we have a move to, there's no second, so do we have a move to transmit to the state? We either have to
Yes.
take up hers or transmit to the
Yes, I
state.
move
We do
to
one or the
transmit
others.
to the state. Why would I kill it before we ever? Then I'll second.
Thank you.
Discussion on the motion to transmit. Discussion from the public. Roll call.
Commissioner Bone?
Yes.
Commissioner Christian?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison?
Yes.
Mayor Roebuck?
Yes. Okay, so now we are on to 5F.
Does this have to get transmitted too? Is this just,
No, just the comp plan amendments.
So now
This
5F.
this one's a no
which
vote.
We just need to have introduced.
All I do is ask to be read by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, rezoning approximately 46.5 plus minus acres from County R1 Rural Residential to City PUD Plan Unit Development for multifamily residential development on property generally located north of U.S. Highway 441, south of North Silver Lake Road, and southeast of County Road 44, as legally described in Section 1, Township 19 South, Range 25 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Any discussion? Discussion from the public? Okay, this will hold over to a future meeting to be determined. That's the end of our consent. So do we have any?
just for a procedural note for the folks in the audience, I know you spent a lot of time and energy here. Let me just recap what we did. The City Commission on the first reading of an ordinance moved to annex the property in question. They moved to transmit the rezoning to the state. It used to be the comp plan amendment. We transmit the comp plan amendment to the state. It used to be Department of Community Affairs. It's now Department of Economic Opportunity. So basically, the state now reviews the proposal for all the things we discussed tonight. They review the proposal for, is it too close to put a high density next to a low density? Is there too much traffic? Are there going to be all these other issues? We will then get the state's opinion that will be transmitted to the city. That process takes about 45 to 60 days. When we have that opinion back from the state, we publish it on our website and we advertise for the second and final hearing of the annexation, zoning, and comp plan. So you will be notified again. You will have another opportunity to come back to the commission to argue your case. So this is not a done deal.
And Commissioner Dennison did try to kill the project, so direct your anger at the other four of us. So she did try to help you out. So.
Mr. Mayor, the minutes from tonight's meeting will also go in the packet that goes to the state. So they will read these comments as well. And then we expect that once that comes back, the second hearing we're expecting at this point toward the end of January, 1st of February. But there will be a notice in the newspaper, not a mail-out notice, but a notice in the newspaper.
And if you have any questions on that, as the new year comes, call Dan Miller in the Planning and Zoning Department. He will know, or you can call my office too. We both have easy numbers that are accessible by the website. So after the holidays, pick up the phone, give us a buzz. It won't go before the commission before the holidays. So, and then we meet second and fourth Monday every month.
Okay, so informational reports. I don't think we have any. Do we have city attorney items?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
City manager items?
No, sir.
Public comments. This section is reserved for members of the public to bring up matters of concern or opportunities for praise. Issues brought up will not be discussed in detail at this meeting. Issues will either be referred to the proper staff or be scheduled for consideration at a future city commission meeting. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Yes, sir.
Is your mayor, your fire chief here?
I don't believe
Deputy Fire Chief I saw in the back.
Chief Mayor.
The deputy chief is here.
He'll work. How you doing? I'm Rick Ranice. I'm general manager of Pat Sales in Leesburg. The new owner, Todd Clifford, asked me to come before you tonight. He's retired from Marion County Sheriff's Office. After retirement, him and his family, and he personally bought Pat Sales back in April of this year. If you would, please, sir. Rick Ranice. I can't remember the date, or my mind just went blank. 2 weeks ago, there was a fire on Tally Box Road, 1730. We rent 1735 or 1731. I got a call at 9 o'clock. Has the alarm gone off? I said, no. I said, well, I looked at it on Leesburg, What's Happening Now, and the building's on fire. It's our warehouse. It's 34,000 square feet with $750,000 worth of inventory. Almost my second heart attack. Got to the scene. It was out. They were mopping up. And our building sits 75 feet away from the warehouse that was destroyed. To the south of that, about 60 feet, I believe, was another building that was saved by the axe of Leesburg Fire Department. Their quick response, Lake County Fire Department came, City of Fruitland Park responded. That's the 3 I got. I don't know if there's any more. If there's more, I'm sorry we missed them. But I just wanted to come here and let y'all know that their professionalism, their quick response saved 2 buildings. They couldn't do anything about the warehouse. It was gone. But you know, it saved a tremendous heartache. When we moved here in 1968, before Mr. Roebuck was born, we were let out of high school to go clean up the fire at Romac Lumber Company. They called the high school and said, we need help. Can the kids come down and the high school kids help clean up the fire after that disaster? If it would have hit our warehouse, it's full of nothing but wood. And it would have been a big match. But I just wanted to come here, thank you. We'll also send in a letter. Todd Clifford's a retired battalion commander from Marion County Sheriff's Office. His brothers, 2 brothers just retired in the last month from Marion County, and he wanted me to express his concerns to y'all. On the other hand, and I've read listened to some of the comments tonight, Mr. Bone, Commissioner Bone, I respectfully understand your position and commend you for leaving the commission to spend time with your family. The other commissioners, you need to see a psychologist. I spent 4 years on Fruitland Park's commission, and not with a gun to my head would I have done what you're doing here tonight again. The people out here, took me a year to count to 3. Once I learned to count to 3, it was pretty easy. But you really don't know. I've done it for 4 years. I would never, ever, ever think about doing it again. But it's a very hard task that you have put before you. And I applaud your effort and your continuing. Why you want to do it a second or third term, I don't know, but I applaud you for doing it. Mr. Bone, I applaud you for spending time with your family. And thank you.
I think the fire department deserves a hand.
Hey,
yes, we need our head.
No more public comments. Roll call.
Commissioner Hurley?
Sure. Oh man, I really don't want to do it. I need to. I just got one thing I want to do. We had the bids go out and did all that stuff about Lakefront TV. I don't know if y'all were surprised to find out that while we were talking to three, only one person put in a bid, one group, and that was Dr. Anna Marie, and Lakefront TV is the only one that put in a bid. After all the work, the stress, all the people griping and saying how they wanted to do it and made us push to do all this work, we literally got one single vote of interest. And I just want to put that out there. I also want to talk about the compensation, because based on the meetings we had earlier this year, those meetings were, we left the PIO, we need to raise this up. We put it out to RFP for a bid, and that bid, that fee was raised up, and people were supposed to tell us what they could do. And then I've got wind that maybe we're trying not to do that now, and I don't understand. So I thought it would be best before next week when we come in here to vote if we clear the air. I think that Dr. Anna Marie and the staff she has done a marvelous job. She has stepped up to the pump and said what she could do in additional staffing. They just replaced a lot of equipment, and that might have been some of the reasons nobody else wanted to when they realized how involved it was and the equipment needed. But I think that we need to settle on a price and do the $150 that we talked about, which was taking some of the PIO money that we didn't need anymore, and open it up for some discussion before our meeting next week.
I haven't seen the proposals, so I don't have any comments.
Nothing I can say tonight. I have to wait and see everything. So.
I would like to see the proposal that came back. But I agree with you. She has done a phenomenal job. I think she has done it at way under a budget that anybody else could do it for. And that's probably some of the reason you didn't get other proposals. So I'd like to have a copy of the proposal that came in before we talk about this at that meeting.
All right, well, I'm done.
Commissioner Christian?
Well, I'm excited about Leesburg's future. I've heard a lot of discussion, even the new development that we're talking about. Unfortunately, I paused for our mayor to take the hit, but I see he can handle it. But I think sitting on the commission, I've seen, you missed Sunnyside. You said Paramore Park. You missed Sunnyside. They'll be next, because I saw development come here and people fill the room up. Then we talk about the mall. We talk about giving $500,000 to, do things for the mall. We at the mall. Most people ever seen. My wife, she complains all the time about why we don't have new stores coming to Leesburg. Well, you don't have rooftops, you don't get stores. So I think we have to be honest with ourselves is how do we want to see Leesburg grow? Whether it is the high density, whether it is single family homes. But I think we have to see, what do we see Leesburg? We can throw money at restaurants, we can throw money at the basin, but if people aren't coming to our city's not going to grow. So I'm excited about that, and then more importantly, I'm excited about the fact that we paused and looked at our city and said, well, we got rooftops coming, but what about our children who missed the mark, who can't afford the expensive dance classes, who don't have the after school, who don't have the photography classes. So I'm so proud of our city who made a decision to purchase facilities for our kids, to keep them inside, away from the streets. You heard mothers these are real people. These aren't actors. These are people who are saying, I bought a home, I'm a single mom, I take care of my kids, but my kids have nowhere to go. This is not me talking, it's not the commission talking, it's not programs talking, these are parents talking. And I'm happy that we listen to the parents, because I think, as the mayor talked about, it costs us more to incarcerate people, to support uneducated people, and I think if we can grab people, do our part. When I walk away from the commission, I want to say I did my part. Whether they took advantage of it or not, I want to say I did my part. So I do commend the commission on taking a deeper look, and I do hope that we push our nonprofits to work together, to be involved in their community, not just have a board meeting, but get involved with their community. Because I talk to staff who works for nonprofits. In our Boy Scout building, they had one bathroom that was working. They told me, you know, our lease is gonna be up in a month. I said, we never talked about ending the lease in a month. So there's a lot of misinformation. They asking me, who do we call to get things repaired at the building? So there's a lot of things that I think is miscommunication, but I think it's our job is to direct staff to make sure that they go through Al and have a conversation and make sure these nonprofits are working together, because there's no need to duplicate services, because I think you waste time, money, and you're not as effective. So I want to commend the commission on having a good discussion. We're not going to always agree, but I think it was a good discussion. And if you don't need your books, my personal money, so I can recycle those.
I started a fire with mine.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Bone.
Yeah, first, I just want to recognize Mr. Van Beck, who passed away after the last commission meeting. So, and for the VFW that he was a part of, and so he did a lot of good things there. I think with the with Fountain Lake and Veterans Park and getting those improvements done there. We talking about the center there on Griffin, that if we buy that building, you know, I really would like to see a sidewalk or somehow, you know, completed where we can safely get from all the way up Griffin.
So I need to follow up. I talked to my aunt, since it's county, and she reached out and said that. Did she talk? Maybe you say
The county's working on it. They've actually got a set of plans from Seth today. Starts at 468, goes all the way through to past the school. It's on the.
Oh, good. Okay.
It's on the side of the road that's opposite the Knights of Columbus building. The county's working that plan, and they've asked for us for comments. We're looking at it right now.
Get it done.
I got power.
And then another one. I brought this up to Al today. I was, and it's our Public Works building there, and just a thought. You know, could we do anything to dress up the right of way there along 27? That acts more of a buffer of our Public Works department. It's not unsightly or anything, but I asked Al if a developer was to come in and put that kind of a project in on 27 today, what kind of a buffer would be required? Would it be more than what we've got there? And so, you know, so to set an example to other developers and to do our part in beautifying the city, that if we could maybe look at that as a possibility of, and it's particularly since it's right across from the high school.
For, man? Well,
because Dan knows the answer. And it's not pretty.
Tell us the answer, man.
The answer is we're not compliant with our own we're grandfathered in.
Yeah. So, but no excuse for us, because you know, grandfathering it's grandfather because grandfather dies eventually, and so things are brought up to standard, and so hopefully the city's not going to die, and so if so under
that example.
Yeah. So.
And by the way, you're going to have this issue coming back to you at that building that we just leased.
Okay.
That building.
Oh.
And I think we should. I think we should be an example and do and do at least what the code will require, maybe more to you know, along our city property.
That's right.
So that's all I have.
Good observation.
Yeah.
Commissioner Dennison.
Yeah, I want to congratulate them all, and also Anna Marie, who ran the first, hopefully, annual Christmas tree light up in the mall. It's the first time they've ever done this. What they're going to do is auction off the trees between now and I believe it's the 12th of December. And all that money will go to the art programs that have now been reinstated into the schools in Lake County. So that was a very big plus to hear. They did an excellent job. It was a lot of fun for everybody. Jay brought up the TV station, which we will be doing more talking about. One of the ladies at the Leesburg senior dinner or lunch that we went to several weeks ago had asked about Lake Express being able to provide transportation for those that are working jobs for the holidays and whatnot. There's no way on Saturday and Sundays to get over to the mall. So if we could follow up with
we'll have to follow up with the county on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll look into that. I'll get back to you on it.
Also, there is a Christmas parade Saturday night. Please pray for no rain.
Yes.
And that's this Saturday, and the boat parade is the next night, and the light up ski beach. So please enjoy everything that's going on.
Get it done.
Mayor Robeck?
Extend my condolences on Don Van Beck. And one thing that I had a couple people approach me about is naming something at Veterans Park, whether it's the park, the lake. I don't know what the appropriate thing to do would be, but I mean, he single-handedly got that thing going from the World War II monument to everything else. So I think it would be appropriate. I don't know, maybe staff could reach out to either his family or the VFW, American Legion, whichever of those organizations are kind of involved, and see if they have a specific thing in the park that they think would be meaningful. I don't know.
One of the, there was somebody whispered something in my ear. I don't know who. It was naming the Veterans Memorial Park after Mr. Van Beck, Don Beck, Veterans Memorial Park. I can reach out to some of the organizations, get their feedback, and if they think that's a great idea, probably a reso that we can put together and get to your next meeting. If you want to
Is it a trail around it, Al? Is the trail like a paved walk around the park?
There is, maybe we put up a sign at the Don Van Beck Trail. If we don't want to
change all the name and everything.
Yeah. We can name the trail, the circle around that after Mr. Van Beck, and we can get like a sign up for that.
Yeah.
It really deserves some recognition. And then the last thing is, I'm glad what we're doing with the teen center, and I feel I'm also glad that I think while I think I would have gone for the whole contract today, it's good that we get some pushback on planning. Because I remember when the restaurant wanted to go to Ski Beach, it was the number one thing people wanted at the Virginia session. That was over 4 years ago, and the commission could have put in a restaurant like literally the next day.
Right.
And I'm still frustrated that it took 6 years. But if we had just done it right away, we wouldn't have the plan we do, and the whole thing wouldn't have come together.
You'd be
without
running a
going
restaurant
through
by now.
Probably the city would with the first one. But yeah, so it's not going to take 6 years, but pushing off for a couple months is, I think, probably the right thing to do. So, but glad we're moving forward. Meeting adjourned.
Good job. Thanks, man. Thanks. Man, you look like a trash.